Chapter 32-73. Su Yun's shots completely suppressed the enemy's mercenaries. No one dared to act rashly when their two strongest teams lost 4 people. The leader of this group of mercenaries pulled one of the 4 people in front of him and questioned, "Are you sure there are only 3 of them?" "That's right, there are only 3 of them." This person's face was very ugly. "I said that the 3 of them are not ordinary people. We have to be careful. Even the 2 bodyguards hired by the boss are not their match." "That's right." One of the other 4 people also crawled over. One of them is called Stinging Ant, a famous figure in the mercenary world. He is the #1 person in the Sacred Flame mercenary group. It's not like you don't know this. The boss has always wanted to kill him. He used to be a super mercenary in the Golden Triangle. The leader of the mercenaries was in a daze. "Of course I know who Stinging Ant is. You're not the only one who has heard of him. But there are so many of us. We can't be played by him alone, right? The other 2 are even more terrifying." Hearing the leader's words, the 2 people became anxious. Stinging Ant is just a prisoner in their hands. "He's nothing. Why didn't you say so earlier?" The leader of the mercenaries pulled his people in front of him. "Do you want all of us to die with you?" "We said it. We said that the 3 of them are not ordinary people." "You said that no matter how strong they are, they can't be our match." "I said that no matter how strong they are, they can't be our match. But now, they don't look like 3 people at all." The leader of the mercenaries was a little angry. "We just started to prepare for the attack and we already lost 10 people. There are also 3 people who are injured and can't continue fighting. You're telling me that there are only 3 of them?" The mercenaries who were questioned were a little emotional. "Why would we lie to you? Lying to you won't do us any good. There are indeed only 3 of them, and 3 of them are very powerful. The Sting Ants are their prisoners, so why would they cooperate with them? Have you ever thought about this?" The leader of the mercenaries still didn't believe them. What wouldn't a person do to save his own life? If he could survive if he chose to fight together, why wouldn't he? These words sounded reasonable, but the mercenary leader wasn't interested in them. "What if all of you colluded with the other party just to survive? All of us?" A terrifying thought appeared in the mercenary leader's mind. The 4 people who came back to get reinforcements were stunned on the spot, and they instantly became the targets of everyone's vigilance. Some people had even pointed their guns at them. If there was even the slightest bit of abnormality, someone would immediately shoot and kill them. "Are you all crazy? Why would we need to trick you guys from so far away? If we're doing this for money, we'll just do it for them. There's no need for us to lure you all here to your deaths. Don't you trust us at all?" This question had indeed angered the 4 of them, but this was the result of greed. If they hadn't coveted the priceless beast head and wanted to lead people to snatch it back, they wouldn't have ended up in such an awkward situation. "Crazy. You guys are all crazy." Faced with the vigilance of their brothers, a few of them were extremely disappointed. "If you guys don't have anything to do with them, then you guys can go and be the vanguard. We have too many people, so the 4 of you can split into 3 groups and ambush them. This way, it won't be easy for them to notice. If the ambush is successful, it will prove that you guys are innocent." The leader of the mercenaries stated his conditions. Naturally, the 4 of them were unwilling to accept this condition. "If the 4 of us can successfully ambush them, do you think we'll still ask for help? It's because the 4 of us can't do anything to them that we'll go and ask for help. What's the difference between asking the 4 of us to do this and sending us to our deaths? We gathered you guys here because we trust you. We want everyone to share the benefits. Now that you want us to die, you want everyone to share the benefits. Is this appropriate? We're not going. This isn't fair at all. We brought you guys here, and we also found out that they have a priceless treasure. We already have enough merits, the rest should be done by you guys." The few of them expressed their dissatisfaction. They were so against this matter because the reason was simple. Once they agreed, they would be dead for sure. They had already seen the other party's marksmanship. It could be said that as long as they were discovered, they would die. If there were more people, the threat of death would be reduced by many times. If it was only the 4 of them, it would be too easy for the other party to kill the 4 of them. It could be said that it would be as easy as blowing off dust. The people who agreed would definitely be idiots. Ka. The leader of the mercenaries pulled out his gun and pointed it directly at the head of one of the 4 people. At the same time, who knew how many guns were loaded and aimed directly at the 4 of them. At this moment, the 4 of them really felt that there was nothing left to live for. They were clearly meritorious people, but at this moment, they seemed to have become sinners in everyone's eyes. There was simply no reason to speak of. It couldn't be helped. This was a mercenary team. Many times, there were many things that couldn't be explained. If they were reasonable, they should obediently stay in the regular army. At least, they should be clear about rewards and punishments. This was completely impossible in a mercenary team. In a mercenary team, benefits were the most important. Everyone had to be linked to benefits. "Are you going or not?" The leader of the mercenaries said coldly, "Even if you have nothing to do with them, you have just entered this collapsed land. You are more familiar with the terrain inside than any of us. For everyone's benefit, why can't you open a path? Are you forcing us to go? If you choose not to go, you should know the consequences." The leader of the mercenaries said lightly, "Deserters, kill." The word, kill, cut off all the escape routes. Now, if the 4 of them still refused to go forward, they would only end up dead. If they braced themselves and rushed forward, perhaps they would have a chance to survive. Many times, fate would not give you the choice you want. Just like at this moment, the 4 of them were helpless. If they could choose to go back to 1.5 hours ago, they would definitely not have made this choice. They would have chosen to go far away. They would definitely not have gathered this group of bastards for the beast head. All the bullets were loaded. The 4 of them had no way out. At this time, they only had one choice. They gritted their teeth and went forward. They gambled on their lives. They gambled on the fact that the 3 sharpshooters in the forest far away in the collapsed land would not discover them. "After this is done, each of you will get double the money." Although the leader of the mercenaries was forcing them to their deaths, in the process, he would still increase the stakes. This was a typical mercenary method. When there was a high reward, there would be bravery. Who else is willing to go with them to explore the path? 2 more people. Because of the temptation of double the benefits, there was no lack of applicants. Immediately, someone stood up and said that he wanted to be the vanguard. In this way, there would be 3 paths, left, middle, and right. Each path would have 2 people. The 4 mercenaries who were still angry just a moment ago quickly calmed down because of the double benefits. To put it bluntly, mercenaries were out to risk their lives. Most of the time, they wanted money more than their lives. When they cared about their lives, it was not because they were afraid of death, but because they felt that they did not have enough bargaining chips. Now that they had enough bargaining chips, their depression disappeared. The gamble of their lives made them feel a little hot-blooded. Chapter 3274. These mercenaries who were easily bribed by money quickly entered battle mode. Due to the fact that 10 of them were killed due to their large target, the mercenaries suffered a heavy blow. They immediately made adjustments to their movements. For a moment, the entire forest in the collapsed area was dead silent. Su Yun knew that the enemy must have come up with a new sneak attack. Otherwise, they wouldn't have become so quiet. He quickly gestured to Lin Gu to pay attention to any movements on the ground. Lin Gu immediately conveyed the message to the sting ant. The 3 of them changed their focus. There was a reason why Su Yun had such an idea. Once, he used the cover of a rustling of leaves in the wind to crawl through the courtyard of a strictly monitored extremist base. Then, he successfully disrupted the opponent's defense system and tore open a gap for the brothers of the special forces who came after him. And now, the enemy had obviously used the same trick that Su Yun had used on that day. He had completely hidden himself on the ground and moved forward bit by bit, following the movements of the wind and grass. This kind of concealment method could be said to be a high-level stealth technique at night. Su Yun knew how terrifying this method of concealment was. That was why he asked Lin Gu and the sting ant to be 120% alert. They had to pay close attention to any signs of movement on the ground. If there were any abnormalities, they had to solve the problem as soon as possible. 4 of the enemy's men died on the tree just now. Now, no one would dare to go up there to seek death. Although the moonlight was weak, there were no shadows on the top of the tree. In comparison, it was easier to be discovered. Unless it was a sneak attack, there was almost no effect. Their plan of taking the enemy by surprise had been seen through by Su Yun. Now, there was no need for them to climb up the tree. The suicide squad formed by 6 people carefully lurked on the muddy ground. Every meter they moved forward, their clothes would be drenched in cold sweat. As long as they moved forward, there was a chance that they would be hit by a bullet that penetrated their head. This was not playing Contra, nor was it playing Metal Slug. After downloading the unlimited life version, he could do whatever he wanted. This was actual combat. He only had 1 F*King life. Even if he bought 10,000 yuan of game currency, he would not be able to revive. Only when one's life was at stake would one realize how important a life was. This kind of careful crawling made it hard for people to breathe. At this moment, the atmosphere around Su Yun and the others had also become tense. Their heavy breathing made them feel as though time had stopped. Everyone's attention was focused on the black area in front of them, as if it could suddenly appear at any time. To be honest, this feeling was not very good. Lin Gu felt an inexplicable tension in his heart. This was the first time he had such a strong sense of tension since he came to the Golden Triangle. It was completely different from the previous tension. Su Yun seemed to feel Lin Ji's tension and uneasiness. This was not difficult to understand. Although the 2 sides were 200 meters apart, they still saw a dense crowd of people just now. After all, there were hundreds of people on the other side. At this moment, it was suddenly so quiet that he could not see a single person. It would be strange if he was not nervous. Lin Gu did not know how many people there would be on the other side. If dozens of people suddenly appeared in front of him, even if he had great ability, it would be impossible to solve them all in a short time. Su Yun quickly gave him a gesture, telling him that there would definitely not be too many people on the other side. After Lin Gu saw Su Yun's gesture, he felt a little relieved. Su Yun was sure of this because according to the judgment of the scene, once there were too many people, even the most hidden means would not be so effective. So he was sure that the other side would arrange at most 2 people on each side. Too many people would only spoil things. With Su Yun's reaction speed, even if 2 people suddenly appeared, it should not be difficult to deal with them. Now, Su Yun's only worry was the sting ants. Although the injuries on the sting ants were not fatal, it was enough to make them feel uncomfortable. Moreover, there was another very important point. Even if there was no fierce resistance, the sting ants' gunshot wounds would cause them to lose blood bit by bit. If they continued to lose blood for a period of time, the sting ants would not be able to protect themselves. There was no need to say what the consequences of excessive blood loss would be. The sting ants would soon be able to demonstrate it. Thinking up to this point, Su Yun suddenly realized that they had to change their battle strategy. A prolonged battle would definitely not benefit them. Since the other side used stealth to attack, why couldn't they use the same method to fight back? If they could sneak behind the other side, they would be able to easily kill the enemy. Su Yun did as he said and immediately gestured to Lin Gu. Seeing this, Lin Gu was stunned. He did not expect Su Yun to give such an order. After receiving the order, the sting ants were also very surprised. This method that seemed to be throwing an egg at a rock was actually the best way to win in a dangerous situation. The sting ants could not help but admire Su Yun's bold idea. They immediately gestured to respond to him. Moreover, the sting ants really needed to go around the enemy's back. The enemy's car was at the back, and there might be the hemostatic medicine that they needed the most in the car. The sting ants were the clearest about their injuries. They also knew how long they could last. Although it was the best chance for them to escape, they completely gave up because they could not escape. Even if they could escape, it would not matter. In this godforsaken place, if they could not get the hemostatic medicine in time, they would still die. To the sting ants, Su Yun's order was the best choice. Not only could they fight the enemy, but they could also guarantee that they would be able to get the hemostatic medicine immediately if they won. Therefore, the sting ants did not have any objections. Lin Gu also nodded in agreement. However, he was faced with an awkward situation. There was no way for them to go around the enemy in the middle. Su Yun did not need him to say much and gave him the specific tactical sign language. He did not need him to plan the next step. He only needed him to try his best to get rid of the enemy stealthily. As for going around the enemy, he would be in charge of that. After receiving the specific arrangements, Lin Gu did not hesitate to embark on his journey. The reason why Su Yunhui made such an arrangement was actually because of the sting ant. He knew that the sting ant would definitely go around the other party and would definitely not face the enemy head-on. The sting ant was injured, and what he wanted the most right now was to stop the bleeding instead of having a silent battle with the other party. Therefore, Su Yun and Lin Gu had to get rid of the enemy stealthily. If they did not get rid of the enemy stealthily, the three teams would realize that they had fallen into a trap once they met up. After all, they had the same goal. There would be a time when they would meet up. As long as Su Yun and Lin Gu got rid of the enemy stealthily, the two people that the sting ants let go would never meet up with their comrades. As long as they did not meet up with each other, they would not think that they had arrived at their destination. They would not be the first to expose their goal. They would continue to move forward cautiously. As long as there was no movement, the main force behind them would think that they were still moving forward and would wait patiently. As long as the mercenaries were still foolishly focusing their attention on the front, Su Yun's plan would succeed. The only thing they needed to guard against was whether the sting ants would point their guns at them after killing the mercenaries. Su Yun gave Lin Gu a small hint before he made his move. Right now, because of the threat of the mercenaries, the sting ants would not point their guns at them. However, without this last threat, the only threat the sting ants had was the two of them. Therefore, it was entirely possible that the sting ants would point their guns at them after getting rid of the mercenaries. It could even be said that this was a very natural thing. Lin Gu also knew when to raise his guard against the sting ants. Right now, their cooperation was purely based on mutual benefits. There was nothing else to talk about. To Su Yun and the sting ants, they were facing a double threat. They had already begun to plan for the threat after getting rid of the mercenaries. The sting ants were not easy to deal with. At this moment, their thoughts were definitely not simple. Chapter 3275. From the very beginning, the sting ant had gone to the left side of the road. He would not fight the enemy head-on. If he did, he would be the one at a disadvantage. With limited stamina and injuries, these were all problems that the sting ants had to deal with. Dragging a wounded leg that was constantly bleeding and enduring the pain of the bullets rubbing against its flesh, it really wasn't easy for it to persevere until now. Su Yun and Lin Gu were very clear about their strategic objectives. They carefully moved on the ground, allowing their bodies to blend into the shadows of the grass in the wind. The deserted collapsed area of the Golden Triangle once again became a deserted place in an instant. The air was dead silent. Except for the occasional sound of the wind, there was no other sound. Su Yun was very experienced in this aspect, so his stealth speed was much faster than the others. After the sting ant went around the left side of the road, it was considered to be far away from the area that everyone was paying attention to. If he had a hemostatic drug, he would definitely not go near this group of dangerous mercenaries. The air was filled with tension. Lin Gu tried his best to control the sound of his breathing. His sharp sixth sense told him that he was going to meet the enemy soon. It was obviously a very difficult task to kill with a single blow and to do it quietly. Once he failed, it would mean that his target was exposed and the entire battle plan would be ruined. Su Yun was also very nervous. The 20 minutes of stealth seemed to be as long as a year. He finally noticed that there was a slight movement less than 10 meters away from him. Obviously, it was not a movement that could be caused by the cold wind. Su Yun realized that he was finally going to fight the enemy. In order to avoid detection, the other party had cleverly chosen to use stealth, one in front and one behind. Therefore, The distance between the first person and the second person was at least 10 meters. Su Yun had more than enough time to deal with one person before dealing with the other. As long as he found the first person, the remaining one would be easy to deal with. However, the enemy did not notice Su Yun's appearance. They never thought that the enemy would come forward to fight them. Therefore, a sneak attack like this was absolutely effective. Su Yun quietly lurked, slowly waiting for the other party to approach. The man inched closer and closer to Su Yun, and as he got closer and closer, Su Yun could even hear the man's weak breathing. At this moment, Su Yun held his breath and tried his best to bury himself in the ground. Because the ground was muddy, Su Yun's color had already blended in with the stones. As long as he didn't move or breathe, no one would notice that there was a person lying there. The other party was now less than a foot away from Su Yun. Although Su Yun had completely held his breath, the other party still felt something. The temperature of the human body obviously affected the surroundings. At this moment, the other party felt that there was something wrong with the human body. His sixth sense told him that the situation was not good. At this moment, Su Yun blinked. The extremely faint reflection still made the other party suddenly realize, but it was too late. Su Yun stuffed a thick pile of mud into the other party's mouth and nose, sealing all the exits that could make a sound. Then, he twisted the other party's head as fast as he could. If he twisted the neck half a second later, the other party would have choked on the mud and coughed. Therefore, Su Yun's move was very risky. If it weren't for his absolute confidence in his speed, Su Yun would definitely not dare to do this. After taking care of the first person, Su Yun cautiously sneaked up beside him and went to face the second person. At this time, Lin Gu also met the first person on his path. Lin Ji's method of solving problems was too violent. The moment the other party passed by him, he would directly stab his dagger into the throat. In a flash, the sharp dagger could directly cut off the enemy's head. Only a fast enough technique and a sharp enough dagger could make all of this as smooth as flowing water, without the slightest bit of sloppiness. After dealing with the first person, Lin Ji's nervousness disappeared. As long as he didn't need to face many people at the same time, Lin Gu was still confident that he could complete the mission beautifully. Su Yun finally met the second person within an effective distance. The second person's alertness was much higher than the first person's. When he was still 2 meters away from Su Yun, he discovered Su Yun's figure. The other party immediately stopped. After Su Yun noticed this, he quickly reacted. He immediately stretched out his hand and made a gesture under the faint moonlight. The gesture was to tell the other party that there was a situation. The other party was stunned. Because everyone was moving stealthily on the muddy ground, the night was dark, and the shadows of the trees were blurry. It was impossible to see clearly. He immediately mistook Su Yun for one of his companions, and obediently stopped moving forward. Su Yun made another gesture to retreat. Then, he used sign language to tell the other party that it was quite dangerous ahead and that there were many enemies. The two people in this team happened to be the ones who volunteered. After seeing this sign language, they exclaimed in their hearts that they had been tricked. The opponent really wasn't 3 people. Thinking of this, he only had one thought, and that was to report back. If the opponent wasn't 3 people, then it would be meaningless for them to continue moving forward. Even if they managed to sneak into the opponent's camp, they would be killed instantly. The person immediately turned around carefully and prepared to go back the way they came. In the blink of an eye, the moment he turned around, Su Yun was like a python moving freely in the muddy ground, quietly and quickly attacking behind the other party. It was another beautiful chokehold, instantly resolving the trouble and crisis. After getting rid of this person, Su Yun didn't let down his guard. Although he judged that the opponent would at most arrange 2 people on each path, for safety's sake, he still carefully moved forward in stealth. He didn't go around the right path that he had to pass through. Lin Ji's second opponent was much weaker. He was the one who discovered Lin Gu first. Lin Gu didn't discover him. When Lin Gu was still in stealth, this guy mistakenly thought that Lin Gu was one of them. He let out 2 very faint, "piao piao" sounds from his mouth. If it wasn't for his reminder, Lin Gu really would have missed him. This guy made a sound to Lin Guo. Obviously, he mistook Lin Guo for his own brother. He was also a little afraid in his heart. Why did his brother turn back? Could it be that there was something wrong up ahead? In order to quickly resolve the doubts in his heart, he disturbed Lin Guo. Lin Ji's entire back was soaked in cold sweat. At this moment, he almost went crazy. That bastard had actually hidden himself so well that Lin Guo couldn't see him at all. Lin Guo had even mistakenly thought that he had encountered someone who had a death wish. Faced with the opponent's reminder, Lin Guo directly gave him a "you go" gesture. This time, this guy was shocked. Faced with this kind of "you go" trick, he definitely wasn't going to fall for it. Who knew what his comrade encountered that made him turn back? But when he thought that he would also be punished as a deserter, he was prepared to stop Lin Guo and ask what was going on. This time, it was exactly what Lin Guo wanted. Lin Guo didn't hesitate to face him. The moment the mercenary realized that Lin Guo wasn't his comrade, Lin Guo directly stabbed him with his dagger. The mercenary's throat was pierced, and he died before he could even let out a cry of regret. After this thrilling experience, Lin Guo quickly slowed down. He couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't run into the other party's people again. He also didn't dare to guarantee that he would meet another person who didn't have any intelligence. Su Yun's movement was much faster. He was very sure that there wouldn't be anyone else, so he immediately changed his direction and circled around from the right side. His speed was also much faster. At this moment, the sting ant had successfully arrived behind the group of mercenaries. This was because it didn't encounter any trouble along the way. The two mercenaries on the left side also successfully arrived at the sting ant's hiding spot. The smell of blood excited the two of them. As long as there was blood, it meant that the opponent was injured. If the opponent was injured, it meant that they had a chance to win the battle and become the heroes of the mercenary group. Chapter 3276. Excitement made the two lurkers on the left side lose their minds. They crawled forward using their elbows and slowly forgot about their previous unhappiness. However, it didn't take long for them to realize that something was amiss. The further they walked, the fewer bloodstains they saw. This made them suspicious. However, they didn't dare to act rashly since they were already deep in the enemy's territory. They could only brace themselves and continue to move forward. At this moment, their target, the sting ant, had already circled around to the back of the mercenaries. Although the sting ant was dragging his injured leg, he held his breath and didn't dare to make a single sound. He carefully planned his final move. Just when the sting ant finally found a suitable place to slaughter, it quietly raised its powerful heavy weapon in front of it. Everything was under its control now. As long as it pulled the trigger, it would be able to eliminate all the enemies in front of it. However, the moment the sting ant was about to open fire, Su Yun pressed his hand down. They still didn't know where Lin Guo was. If the sting ant rashly fired, it would most likely hurt Lin Guo. The sting ant didn't even consider this point. Fortunately, Su Yun appeared in time and stopped the sting ant from going crazy. Lin Guo finally realized that he was only 30 meters away from the mercenaries. He had no choice but to carefully move his body sideways to ensure that he could disappear without a trace. The sting ant was held down by Su Yun. He didn't say a word. Instead, he looked at Su Yun with a questioning gaze. He questioned Su Yun why he didn't seize the opportunity. Perhaps it seemed like they had plenty of opportunities now, but in reality, that wasn't the case. Opportunities were often fleeting, especially in a situation like this. Once they missed it, there might not be a second chance. They came here so carefully because they were afraid of being discovered. If they were discovered, it would mean that everything would turn into smoke. However, no matter what the reason was, Su Yun would never allow Lin Guo to be threatened. If Lin Guo was threatened by his own people, then everything would be meaningless. The sting ant tried to raise his gun again, but Su Yun's attitude was firm. He forcefully pressed down the gun in the sting ant's hand again. This group of mercenaries was somewhat impatient. They had sent out 6 people for quite a while, but there was still no movement. No one knew what had happened, or if nothing had happened until now. The passing of time would always make people lose their patience. Finally, someone couldn't hold it in anymore. "We can't keep waiting like this, right? It's too unbearable to wait like this." "Yeah. Let's rush over now. I don't believe that the three of them can do anything to us." "That's right, let's get ready now." The leader of the mercenaries was the cleverest. He asked coldly, "Those who rush to the front are obviously going to die. If any of you don't care, then you don't have any objections. Whoever wants to charge to the end, stand out and take the lead. Charge to the front and try your luck." The moment he said that, everyone fell silent. Although the mercenaries were people who valued money more than their lives, they were definitely not idiots. They definitely wouldn't be stupid enough to die for the benefit of others. Since no one wants to make a sacrifice, then all of you shut up. The leader of the mercenaries scolded, "Stop treating those unreliable things as wishful thinking. No one is willing to die as cannon fodder." The entire group of mercenaries fell silent. Indeed, no one was willing to be cannon fodder. While the mercenaries were arguing, Su Yun roughly glanced at the number of people on the other side. Although 10 of them had died, they killed another 4 along the way. There were still 2 that were let go by the sting ant and a few that were injured. There were at least 70 people on the other side who were at 100% combat power. It wasn't difficult to deal with these 70 people. If Su Yun and the sting ant were willing to ambush these 70 people, they would be able to kill at least 50 to 60 of them. The remaining 10 or so mercenaries were nothing to Su Yun and the rest. Even if they were fully armed, they were nothing to them. The sting ant didn't want to miss this opportunity. However, if Su Yun continued to suppress him like this, they would definitely miss this opportunity. If Lin Guo was exposed in front of them, they would be focused on by the enemy. They might not even know how they died in the end. In the end, the sting ant decided to play a trick. It was going to put its opponent in a hopeless situation. Just when Su Yun was completely unaware of this, the sting ant suddenly stood out and shouted, "Today is a good day. I'll leave it as your death anniversary. Consider it my last gift to you." Stinging Ant's sudden reprimand shocked all the mercenaries present. Even Su Yun, who was standing beside Stinging Ant, was completely confused. Who would have thought that this bastard would actually play such a dirty trick? It was obvious that he wanted to stab them in the back. In an instant, all the mercenaries turned their weapons towards them. At this moment, Lin Guo also realized that the plan had to be changed. He used his fastest speed to avoid the same path as the mercenaries in order to avoid being shot by his own people. The sting ant wouldn't go easy on them at this moment. He would definitely use all his strength to shoot them. He wouldn't stop until they were dead. At this moment, Su Yun knew that he couldn't stop them anymore. If he continued to block them, they would be the ones to die. Lin Guo wouldn't be safe either. He could only hope that after Lin Guo heard the sting ant's voice, he would immediately realize that this was a trap and try his best to avoid the bullets. The sting ant picked up the heavy machine gun in his hand and began to fire wildly at the mercenaries. He was like a madman. In his unbridled madness, he even forgot about the pain in his leg. The sudden arrival of the bullets completely stunned the mercenaries. They would never have thought that there would be people from the other side behind them. They also couldn't figure out how the enemy managed to sneak up behind them. All of this would become a regret in all of their hearts, and no one would ever tell them the answer. Su Yun didn't hesitate either. He loaded the gun and rolled on the ground to avoid the enemy's concentrated fire. He then fired at the enemy without hesitation. The 2 mercenaries who were sneaking away stood up vigilantly. They didn't understand the situation at all. Why did the enemy suddenly open fire from behind them? That's their headquarters. In an instant, the 2 of them were enlightened. In just half a second, they realized that the enemy had taken the initiative to attack and avoided them. They were really lucky. At this moment, they naturally wouldn't go back. Those mercenaries forced them to come in just now. At that time, no one cared if they would die here or not. Now that the chaotic battle had begun, it was time for them to search for the other treasure. The 2 of them had a tacit understanding. They didn't say anything and immediately understood each other's intentions through eye contact. The two of them immediately disappeared into the darkness. No one noticed their sneaky movements. All of this happened under the most tense circumstances. No one would have thought of such a comprehensive plan. After the battle, Lin Gu didn't stay idle. He immediately entered battle mode. At this moment, he and Su Yun formed a formation. From a tactical point of view, it was excellent. At the very least, these mercenaries focused all their energy on the rain of bullets in front of them. They didn't think that Lin Gu was secretly shooting at them from behind. This gave Lin Gu too many opportunities to kill in all directions. In one breath, he consecutively killed 5 or 6 people. However, he was still far from the sting ant. At this moment, at least 20 to 30 mercenaries had died under the sting ant's heavy machine gun. The sting ant was still crazily shooting with its gun. He himself was also hit by a lot of bullets, but at this moment, he didn't seem to feel anything. All that was left was a pair of bloodshot eyes. Su Yun finally realized that the sting ant had no intention of letting him live. Chapter 32:77. After all, there were dozens of skilled mercenaries in front of him. Every one of them was armed with a suitable weapon. Su Yun never expected the sting ant to risk his life like this. However, at the end of the day, wasn't the sting ant going to face death? Even if Su Yun and Lin Gu didn't kill him directly because of his actions, they wouldn't let him go so easily, right? If Su Yun wanted to bring him back to his country to deal with him, he might as well give him a quick death here. That way, he wouldn't have to suffer so much right now. With the sting ant attracting the firepower, Su Yun and Lin Gu had a better opportunity. Su Yun was on one side while Lin Gu was at the back. After the sting ant attracted a large amount of firepower, they immediately started suppressing the enemy with heavy firepower. In an instant, the enemy mercenaries were scattered all over the place. The biggest mistake these mercenaries made today was that they were too close together. This caused them to be completely flustered when faced with Su Yun and the others' sneak attack. After the three of them emptied their bullets, this originally arrogant and unruly elite mercenary group of close to 100 people, only a dozen or so of them were still alive. Among these dozen or so people, only a pitiful few were not injured. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe the scene in front of them as a river of blood. On the other hand, the sting ant had at least a dozen bullets on his body. Although he was still standing with his gun supporting him, he had already stopped breathing. It was as if nothing had happened. The bloodied sting ant stood there with his eyes closed. Until now, Su Yun still couldn't understand the sting ant's mentality when he made that decision. He was actually willing to give up his life for this matter. This greatly exceeded Su Yun and Lin Ji's understanding of him. Perhaps the few healthy mercenaries still had thoughts of resisting, but the injured mercenaries were already clamoring for a ceasefire. They wanted to negotiate and make peace. This wasn't a war between countries. There were no captives. All the mercenaries were faced with two choices, life or death. Who wouldn't want to keep their life when they had lost their ability to fight? However, Su Yun had no intention of negotiating with these untrustworthy mercenaries. Under the cover of a smoke bomb, he directly rushed to Lin Ji's direction. After giving Lin Gu a shooting gesture, he unceremoniously pulled out 2 pistols from his waist. At this time, the mercenaries who originally wanted to negotiate were madly shooting in the direction of the smoke. They couldn't wait to empty their magazines. Therefore, their fake request for peace was just to temporarily save their lives. If there was a chance, they would definitely aim their guns at Su Yun and the others again. At this moment, Lin Gu had already thrown away the unloaded submachine gun in his hands and took out the assault rifle to begin the final annihilation. In less than half a minute, there was no more sound. A mercenary group of close to 100 people was completely annihilated by the sting ants. Even Su Yun did not expect such a smooth operation. "Brother, this guy is really crazy. If I didn't react quickly, I might have died in his hands." Lin Gu was still scared when he thought about it. Su Yun smiled slightly. Indeed, if he didn't stop the sting ants, Lin Gu would definitely have been injured by accident. He deserves to die here. Let's not waste any more time. Go and find the beast head as soon as possible. And Lin Gu nodded. Now they needed to leave as soon as possible. The sound of such a fierce battle would definitely spread out. If they happened to meet some busybodies who liked to watch the show, it would only make things more complicated and more unpredictable. Leaving this place as soon as possible, getting the beast head and returning to Huaxia as soon as possible was the only thing Su Yun wanted to do now. The two of them were very fast and rushed all the way back to the depths of the collapsed area. The fierce battle just now made the two of them forget about one thing: the remaining 2 fish that escaped the net. The 2 people who were released by the sting ants during the stealth process had also entered the depths of the collapsed area. The 2 of them had been to the place where the dog head was dug out, so their speed was definitely faster than Su Yun and the others. The 2 of them were racing against time. They hoped to find the item before anyone else appeared and take it away for themselves. Driven by the huge benefits, the 2 of them dug like crazy. At this moment, they did not care about anything else. They only had one thought in mind: to get the treasure and leave alive. Finally, their hard work paid off. The 2 lucky mercenaries really dug out the remaining beast head. When they excitedly opened the box, their whole bodies were trembling. However, at this moment, Su Yun and Lin Gu also rushed over. The 2 of them who happened to be quiet heard footsteps 100 meters away and immediately woke up. At this moment, if they wanted to run, Su Yun and Lin Gu would definitely hear them. It would be hard to say if they could escape by then. Suddenly, one of them had a scary thought: there's still the other beast head. It's in the hands of those 2 people. However, this scary thought was immediately echoed by the other person: if we can kill them, that beast head is also ours. At that time, each of us will have one. Huge benefits would always drive people to do some unreliable things. For example, what these 2 people were thinking now was really crazy. Under the huge temptation, they had already lost their most basic rationality. They're here to find the beast head, so they'll definitely be distracted. As long as we control ourselves, we'll definitely be able to wait for the best opportunity to attack. That's right. If we can take down the 2 of them, the beast head will be ours. We can directly sell this priceless treasure to the Huaxia people. We won't have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of our lives. This kind of thinking made the 2 of them make a stupid decision. They really did hide in the surroundings of the digging area, waiting for Su Yun and Lin Gu, these 2 terrifying prey, to take the initiative to come to their door. Su Yun and Lin Gu were getting closer and closer to the place. It was still Lin Gu who had sharp eyes. He had already seen the mess here. Brother! Look, it's that place. The 2 of them quickened their pace and quickly rushed to the scene. Looking at the mess that had been dug up, Su Yun couldn't help but frown. He felt that something was wrong. Brother, since the dog head was found here, then the chicken head must also be here, Lin Gu said as he prepared to attack. Su Yun looked at the intact wooden box with the beast head on his back. He had some doubts in his heart. This wooden box was still intact. It was obvious that the 4 dogs were very careful when they dug up the beast head. They definitely wouldn't have made such a mess. They definitely wouldn't have used a large shovel so fiercely because they were afraid of destroying this treasure. But the scene didn't look like this. Everything was very messy. It was obvious that someone had violently dug up the beast head. Otherwise, it wouldn't have become like this. Su Yun calmly looked at the scene. Lin Gu had already started digging, but he didn't act rashly. This made the 2 mercenaries hiding in the dark nervous. They were afraid that Su Yun would discover them. Su Yun looked for a long time, but he didn't notice anything wrong with the surroundings. Perhaps the bloody and murderous aura just now was too strong, causing him to be unable to sense the small murderous aura hidden here. Brother, there's no need to be suspicious. It must be this place. Lin Gu said, look below. There are a lot of footprints. They must have found the beast head here. They definitely didn't run away. And Su Yun nodded. In the end, he gave up searching and walked towards Lin Gu. Lin Gu had already dug out the thick hemp rope used to dig out the beast head. His face was full of doubts. Brother, What do you think this rope is used for? What is its connection with the beast head? Su Yun stepped forward and took the thick hemp rope from Lin Ji's hand. He carefully examined it. The thick hemp rope was several meters long. It had already been thoroughly soaked in the muddy soil. When he pinched it, it felt like he could pinch mud. The feeling of it made Su Yun feel disgusted. It was obviously impossible to find this kind of rope in this kind of collapsed ground. It must be related to the beast head. So even if it felt disgusting, Su Yun still took it in front of his eyes and examined it. Chapter 3278. Su Yun could tell from the feel of the thick hemp rope that it wasn't soaked in water for a day or two. It would take at least a week for it to become this soft under the damp soil. It was obvious that the rope wasn't left behind when Hound 4 and the others were looking for the head. It must have something to do with when Sting Ant and the others hid the head. When Su Yun saw that the thick hemp rope had broken nodes at intervals, a thought flashed through his mind. He put down the box containing the beast head and placed the thick hemp rope on top of it to compare. The most obvious part of the rope that was broken was exactly the same width as the box. Su Yun was enlightened. He immediately understood the purpose of the hemp rope. This rope is used to tie one end of the box and bury the box underground. The other end of the hemp rope is exposed. As long as you can find one end of the hemp rope, you can dig along the hemp rope and find the box with the head. Su Yun finally understood how Sting Ant and the others hid the head. Lin Gu was enlightened. It was much clearer now. As long as he could find the other end of the hemp rope, he would be able to find the other box with the head. With a clue, Lin Gu was excited. He immediately searched for his target. Lin Ji's sharp eyes immediately saw the end of the hemp rope. He stepped forward and pulled the end of the rope, but the result was surprising. Because Lin Gu had exerted too much force, he fell heavily onto the ground. He originally wanted to pull the box with the head directly from the ground. With Lin Ji's strength, it wasn't strange for him to have this kind of confidence. However, Lin Gu didn't pull anything out. He only pulled the other hemp rope. There was nothing on the other end of the hemp rope because it wasn't buried in the ground. It was the hemp rope that Hound 4 and the others used to find the head. The rope in Su Yun's hand was the one that the two mercenaries threw away when they found the other head. Su Yun and Lin Gu appeared too quickly, so they didn't have time to clean up the scene. F***ck. Lin Gu stood up and cursed. This was too much of a scam. This fall almost made him stupid. He could only blame himself for using too much strength. He couldn't even support his lower body. The mud under his feet was slippery, and he couldn't stand at all. Su Yun immediately reacted. Since the hemp rope was already exposed, it meant that the two beast heads had already been dug out from the ground. Something's not right. The item must have been dug out by someone. It's impossible for there to be another beast head here. Su Yun made a very certain judgment on the spot. Lin Gu glared. What's going on? Then who took it? Is there anyone else here? Didn't we take care of all the 4 dogs and the mercenaries that appeared later? Su Yun's mind went blank. He was secretly shocked. They were too careless. They forgot that there were still 2 people who might be spared by the stinging ants. At this time, it was already too late for Su Yun to think of this point. Everything went too smoothly just now. In addition, the death of the stinging ants gave Su Yun too much of a shock, which made Su Yun forget to consider the details of the threat. There was a saying that the details determine success or failure. Don't move. Suddenly, an angry roar sounded. 2 mercenaries who had been hiding for a long time suddenly appeared behind Su Yun and Lin Gu with guns in their hands. Although this wasn't the best opportunity for the 2 mercenaries, they couldn't wait any longer. They were very clear that the other party had already realized that they were there. If they gave Su Yun and Lin Gu enough time to prepare and discover them, the danger and trouble they would face would be even greater. Lin Gu was shocked by these 2 guys. He hadn't thought through this matter like Su Yun, so not only was he not prepared physically, but he also wasn't mentally prepared at all. At least Su Yun was mentally prepared. He just didn't expect the other party to appear so quickly. 2 people, 2 guns, carefully aimed at Su Yun and Lin Gu. The other party was very cautious and didn't dare to be careless. Su Yun and Lin Gu were also very cooperative. They fully opened their hands and placed them in a position where the other party could see clearly. This way, the other party would lower their guard and let the other party know that they didn't have any weapons in their hands. It also ensured that the other party wouldn't suddenly shoot. I didn't expect there to be 2 people who are so smart. Su Yun said lightly, "Your people are all dead. I think we should have a good talk and share the benefits. I don't know what the 2 of you think." The 2 mercenaries didn't shoot directly because Su Yun and Lin Gu still had a dog head on their side. The outside of the animal head was a wooden box. The wooden box couldn't block bullets at all. If they shot recklessly and Su Yun used the box to block the bullets could penetrate the wooden box and hurt the animal head inside. The animal head was a priceless treasure in Huaxia. The 2 mercenaries knew very well that if the bullet hurt the animal head, the value of the animal head would be greatly reduced. If such a thing really happened, their benefits would definitely be greatly reduced. After all, they wanted 1 animal head each. No matter who it was, they wouldn't want the damaged animal head. Cut the crap. What we want is the animal head. You give us the animal head in your hands. We might let you live. The 2 mercenaries' eyes were red and bloodshot. They couldn't wait to eat Su Yun and Lin Gu alive. Lin Gu gnashed his teeth in hatred. It was all shown on his face. I should be the one saying that. How could these 2 bastards steal my lines? If we give you the animal head, then we have even less bargaining chips. Su Yun had already seen through the reason why the other party didn't dare to act rashly. It was because of the animal head in front of him. You'll definitely shoot us directly. We want money, not lives. The mercenaries said coldly. As long as we get what we want, we won't hurt you. Leave the animal head and retreat. We promise not to shoot at you. If you don't do that, then don't blame us. You want money, I want money too. Everyone wants money. Why do you have to be so hostile? Su Yun continued, I think we can work together. Previously, there were close to 100 of you, so the loot was also divided. Now that there are only 4 of us, you will only get more, not less. The mercenaries didn't fall for Su Yun's trick. We want everything. Why should we give you a share? You don't understand. Because we are Huaxia people. Lin Gu said, we can sell this thing for a higher price because we know its value better than anyone else. This won't do you any harm. Although there was nothing wrong with Lin Ji's words, the 2 mercenaries still didn't listen to him. 1 animal head can be sold for more than 1 billion. If each of us has 1, then each of us will have more than 1 billion. We know the price very well, so we won't make any deals with you. The 2 mercenaries were determined to take the 2 animal heads for themselves. More than 1 billion? Lin Gu glared. It seems that you still don't know the true value of this animal head. Indeed, you can sell it for more than 1 billion at most. You don't have a better way to sell it. But we are different. We are Huaxia people. We have a lot of connections in Huaxia. We definitely won't sell it for more than 1 billion. The 2 mercenaries froze for a moment. When they heard about money, the 2 seemed to have something to focus on. If you let us sell it, we can sell 1 animal head for 5 billion. Lin Ji's bragging must be given 100 points. Anyway, bragging didn't need to be taxed. No one could do anything to him even if he said 50 billion. The 2 mercenaries were shocked by Lin Ji's words on the spot. 5 billion? 1 animal head can be sold for 5 billion? Let's cooperate. I promise to sell the 2 animal heads for 10 billion. When the time comes, each of you will get 5 billion. Why not? Lin Gu said. If you sell it, the 2 animal heads can only be sold for 5 billion at most. After splitting it evenly, each of you will only get more than 1 billion. This means that you will lose half of your money. From the expressions of these 2 people, it could be seen that they were moved. They were definitely moved. In the face of this kind of temptation, who wouldn't be moved? Chapter 3279. Lin Gu struck while the iron was hot and said, "You must think that I'm talking nonsense, but if you listen to me, you will definitely believe what I said." Su Yun couldn't help but be curious about how Lin Gu could get back such a big bull. This was a bit too exaggerated. There are countless rich people in Huaxia. I don't need to emphasize this, right? Lin Gu said, there are many people who have hundreds of billions in their hands. These people all have a common hobby, which is to spend money to play with these treasures. And if someone wants to be famous, they just need to buy it and give it to the country, and they will definitely be regarded as a hero. It will also be quite helpful to their career. Sure enough, the two mercenaries listened to him and stopped interrupting. Moreover, this is a beast's head. Not to mention that this is a treasure of Huaxia, this is also a rare treasure in the world. Lin Gu said, it's just that if you sell it to Huaxia, the benefits can be maximized. But you don't have the resources of Huaxia, we do. Do you know any rich people in Huaxia? One of the mercenaries was tempted. Lin Gu patted his chest. Nonsense. If I didn't know any rich people in Huaxia, would I spend so much effort to get this kind of thing? Let me tell you, I know a rich person who spent hundreds of millions just to buy a small teacup smaller than a palm. Think about it, if this beast's head was sold to him, how much would he get? 5 billion is already a low estimate. Su Yun looked at Lin Gu with a straight face and nodded in agreement. Actually, he was so stifled that he almost suffered internal injuries. He almost burst out laughing. He had never seen someone who could boast in such a fresh and refined manner, so naturally and vividly. Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. The opportunity to double the value is right in front of you. As long as you miss it, you will miss it forever. Lin Gu said, we won't force you. You can figure it out yourself. Lin Gu spouted nonsense with a straight face, completely confusing the two mercenaries who only had money in their eyes. The two of them looked at each other. Although the weapons in their hands had been aimed at the two of them, the killing intent in their hearts had begun to waver. It wasn't because of benevolence, kindness, or soft-heartedness that made the two mercenaries' hearts waver. Their hearts wavered because of the pursuit of benefits and their obsession with money. What did it mean to earn more than 1 billion? Just one number was enough to make people go crazy, and that was earning an extra 10,000 to 3,000 kilograms of $100 bills. How big would the house have to be to store so much money? Just thinking about it made the two of them so excited that their bodies went numb. They didn't even dare to think about it. It was simply too crazy. As long as we cooperate, you will be able to earn more than 1 billion. Moreover, each of you will earn more than 1 billion. Why not? Lin Gu continued, think about it. As long as you don't buy a big mansion in Yanjing or Shenzhen, the extra money is definitely enough for you to build a palace anywhere. Is what you said true? The money had wavered their restless hearts. How could the two mercenaries not be moved? Even if it was only RMB, the money was enough for them to live a luxurious life anywhere in the world. Of course it's true. Lin Ji's acting was indeed good. Then we can go to the American Empire. The American mercenary was instantly moved. Go to the American Empire. Whether it's New York, Florida, Washington, California. Even in these bustling small towns, 20 to 30 million RMB is enough to buy a mansion with a swimming pool and a gym. They only needed to spend a little bit to enjoy the life of a rich person. The rest of the money could be squandered for a lifetime. Even if they had to find women every day and live in marijuana every day, the money was enough for them to live a lifetime. Why do we have to go to a small town? Don't tell me we can't live in the city center with this money. The other mercenaries' expression changed. Who would want to live in the town with this much money? They had to go to the city center. Don't tell me the houses in the city center are expensive? The American mercenary immediately laughed. Why are you as stupid as Huaxia? Live in the city center? Let me tell you, in our American empire, only the poor will live in the big cities. When they reach the middle class, they will move to the suburbs. Only the rich will live in small towns. This was indeed the case. However, it was the direction of the development of the whole world, including Huaxia. More and more rich people moved out of the city center. And more poor people squeezed their heads to enter the city center. Our American empire's small towns are the heaven of the rich. The air is good, the environment is good, and the community is good. There are many rich people's areas in our American empire. In New York, California, Washington, Florida, New Jersey, Hawaii, and Maryland. The more the American mercenary spoke, the more excited he became. The other mercenary was a little dumbfounded. After he left Africa, he had only been to 2 places. One was the French Foreign Corps, and the other was the Golden Triangle. He did not have much contact with the outside world. Naturally, he did not know what the American empire was like. Do you know, the common characteristic of those rich towns is that they are close to the beach, near the park, or have high mountains. All of them are closely related to the beauty of nature. The American mercenary now began to imagine his wonderful life. Of course, no matter who it was, they would have such fantasies. A huge amount of money would make anyone lose their mind. If 100 million was thrown into the bank, the interest would be more than 3 million. If 250 million was thrown into the bank, how much would the interest be? Moreover, if one had so much money, they could go to any bank and talk about the price and interest. This was not a problem at all. Perhaps in this world, only idiots would put so much money in the bank, right? With so much money, investing in anything would earn more than putting it in the bank. Just as the 2 mercenaries began to fantasize about their happy life with 2.5 billion, Su Yun and Lin Gu had adjusted their preparations for battle. Once Su Yun and Lin Gu were ready for battle, these 2 guys would probably cry. Facing 2 guns, and with Su Yun and Lin Ji's speed, it was not difficult to avoid the shots. There was no need to worry about random gunshots hurting people. Just as the 2 people were enjoying their beautiful life, Su Yun made a gesture to Lin Gu. Lin Ji's sneer disturbed the 2 mercenaries' imagination. The 2 mercenaries glared at Lin Gu unhappily. They seemed to be asking if he had any opinions now. Lin Gu threw a sentence at them. Does it feel good to daydream? The faces of the 2 mercenaries immediately changed. They instantly realized that they had been tricked by Lin Gu. It wasn't shameful to be tricked. What was shameful was that they had actually fallen into a trap that didn't even exist. What was shameful was that they had actually been complacent about it. This was really embarrassing. The 2 mercenaries could not bear the humiliation and immediately pulled the trigger. However, at this time, Su Yun and Lin Gu had already predicted this. Their figures quickly flashed forward, one to the left and one to the right. The 2 mercenaries panicked when faced with Su Yun and Lin Ji's sudden attack. However, the 2 of them were veterans after all. The 2 of them tacitly split up and gave chase. The 2 guns also moved to the sides at this time. The firepower was even more dispersed, allowing Su Yun and Lin Gu to be more like fish in water. The 2 mercenaries who were overconfident in their own marksmanship also paid a heavy price. When they realized that they had nowhere to hide, everything was too late. Su Yun and Lin Ji's speed was too fast. They were so fast that they did not even have time to pull out their daggers, let alone change their pistols or reload. The sharp blade cut through the 2 men's throats, and everything was over. Lin Gu wiped off the blood on his face and spat on the ground. Brother, the first thing I want to do after I return to the country is to take a bath, a big and comfortable bathtub. I want to take a bath. I really can't take it anymore. I've been clean for too long. I'm suddenly not used to it. Su Yun actually had the same thoughts as Lin Gu. However, Su Yun really liked this feeling. This feeling of battle really made Su Yun recall a lot of past stories, so he really liked this feeling of battle. Chapter 3280. Lin Gu pursed her lips. Brother, I didn't come from the military. The old man only made me suffer a little when he scolded me back then. After I turned 18, he didn't let me suffer any more grievances. I only do things in high-class places. Su Yun was too lazy to pay attention to him. People who were assassins were naturally different from him. Of course, if it weren't for the fact that the assassins trained by Lu Xuanji weren't bad people, Su Yun wouldn't have agreed to let Lin Gu stay by his side to work. Brother, you have to promise me first. Otherwise, I won't have the motivation to take these 2 animal heads. Lin Gu complained deliberately. Okay, I'll find you a sauna club and let you have a good steam. Then, I'll find you 2 D-cup girls and give you a good smile service. This should satisfy you, right? Lin Gu reacted quickly at this time and quickly waved his hand. Forget it. I'm afraid my small body can't bear it. Then hurry up and take the animal heads. Let's go back now. After Su Yun finished speaking, he strode ahead. Lin Gu took the chicken head and followed. Brother, where are we going now? I've never been to this place. Don't get lost. Su Yun shook his head helplessly. As long as he looked at the location and the compass, he could easily find the way back to Huaxia. It was a piece of cake. Su Yun looked at Lin Gu speechlessly. How can you be a directionally challenged person? You can't even figure out the directions. I don't think you should come out in the future. Who said I can't figure out the directions? Brother, you can't blame me. Blame this damn place for not even having a decent road. I'll definitely turn. Lin Gu complained. I'm really puzzled. These guys in the Golden Triangle are really capable. They can survive in this place. The 2 people talked and walked all the way. Soon, they returned to the car. Su Yun drove away without saying a word. As for the mess in this place, he believed that someone would find it soon. The noise in this place tonight was really not small. The nosy and curious drug dealers would definitely not miss the excitement of this place. He believed that it would only take 2 days for the news of the annihilation of the 4 dogs to spread throughout the Golden Triangle. At that time, he was afraid that some people would be happy and some would be sad. These had nothing to do with Su Yun. Su Yun's only task now was to bring back the priceless treasures that belonged to Huaxia and let them return to where they belonged. After confirming the direction, Su Yun and Lin Gu set off on their bumpy journey. Lin Gu held a beast's head in each hand, his face full of pride. Brother, how many people do you think can be as awesome as me in this lifetime? Holding a beast's head in each hand, swaggering around the Golden Triangle in a car. Isn't that special? It's quite impressive. Su Yun, don't get carried away. Hold the things in your hands. If you lose a dog ear or a coxcomb, it's enough to convict you of damaging cultural relics and let you go to jail for a few years. Lin Gu pursed his lips. I did such a great thing out of kindness. If I'm sentenced after I go back, I'll be greatly wronged. Then don't show off. Su Yun said. He only wanted to remind Lin Gu to hold on to the beast head in his hand. The road was too bumpy, and he was driving fast. He was afraid that Lin Gu would lose his grip if there were any big bumps. Brother, you can rest assured. Even if I am thrown out, the animal head will sit in the car intact. Lin Gu patted his chest and promised. Su Yun didn't know how long they had been driving. Finally, when the sky slightly lit up, they arrived at the border between Huaxia and Myanmar. In this 2,000-kilometer-long border between Huaxia and Myanmar, about half of the border was not under the control of the Myanmar government. Out of the 9 ports in Myanmar, only 4 were really under the control of the Myanmar government. In other words, a lot of the border trade was not under the control of the Myanmar government. Therefore, this created a lot of chaos on the border between Huaxia and Myanmar. The border between Yunnan and Myanmar was about 500 kilometers, and only 180 kilometers was really under the control of the Myanmar government. The headquarters of the Kachin Independence Army, which had not signed a ceasefire agreement with the Myanmar government, was located in a city on the border between Huaxia and Myanmar. During the fierce fighting between the Myanmar Army and the Kachin Independence Army, bombs would accidentally fall into Huaxia's territory. Therefore, there was no need to say much about how chaotic the border was. He thought that most of the borders between China and Myanmar were not separated by natural barriers or geographical boundaries. The border areas were really like what he had read in books. Mountains and rivers were connected, and Myanmar was on the other side after climbing a slope and crossing a stream. In the border area, many places had a popular tourist attraction. They all had a common name, such as one village, two countries, one school, two countries, one house, two countries, and so on. People who had been to this place would definitely know what it was like. There was also a tourist attraction called One Swing Swinging Two Countries. In addition, the local people who were separated by the border had close interactions with each other. Therefore, the management of the border crossing between Hua Xia and Myanmar was quite a big problem. After Su Yun and Lin Gu arrived at the border, they even saw a little boy from Hua Xia directly crossing a fence to get a haircut at the border of Myanmar. The village they were passing by was called Wapa Village. Although it was early in the morning, the village was quite lively. Although the village was remote and backward, there were people coming and going every day. It was very lively. Why was that? Because there were hundreds of young girls from all over Myanmar living in the village. They lived in this place so that it was convenient for them to sell their bodies. Most of these girls were under the age of 20, and some were only 14 or 15. Wapa village was not only famous in Myanmar, but also in Hua Xia on the other side of the border. This village was called Man's Paradise by men. Not only were the girls here young and beautiful, but they were also very cheap. One business only cost less than 10 USD. Su Yun and Lin Gu saw some people driving away early in the morning. Perhaps they were here to rent a room for the night. Renting a room for the night was only $20. With a little more than 100 renminbi, they could play in this paradise for a night. In this place, everything was open. In order to attract customers, the girls would occasionally run to the roadside and flirt with passers-by. They would even go to the border to find opportunities to attract customers from Hua Xia. Most of the girls who sold their bodies here were sold by their families. In Hua Xia, it was illegal to buy and sell human beings. It was even more unlikely that parents would be willing to sell their children, let alone sell their children for this kind of business. But in Myanmar, it was different. The phenomenon of men being superior to women was very serious in Myanmar. Selling one's daughter was considered in line with the ideas of Confucius, and this idea was deeply ingrained in many villages. In traditional families, daughters were always discriminated against. Earning money, doing housework, and raising children were considered a woman's duty. Confucius didn't think this way. If he knew that the Burmese people did such an evil thing in his name, he would be so angry that he wouldn't be able to eat for several days. What was more terrible was that the girls who were sold didn't think it was unfair. They even thought it was right. Because they wanted to be filial to their parents. In fact, some girls just wanted to work here for a short period of time to earn enough money to support their families and go home. But before they paid off their debts, their parents would borrow money from the boss. In this way, they had to extend their time in Wapa village, and some even had to stay here for several years. Because the girls who were sold here had to earn twice the amount of money they borrowed before they could leave. In addition, they had to pay a lot of additional expenses, such as bribing the police. In fact, they didn't want to stay here to do things, but they had no choice. This was the helplessness of life. Compared to these girls, the girls in Hua Xia were much happier. That was why reincarnation was also a skill. However, the girls in Myanmar were also luckier than those who were reincarnated in African tribes, because those backward and mentally abnormal tribes were even more terrible to the girls. Chapter 3281. Su Yun and Lin Gu had seen many Hua Xia people in the village. As for how they came here, there was no need to explain. With such a loose border, it was too easy to come here to have fun. They only needed to find the right people at the border. When they saw people holding signs with the words, "Lead the way," they could easily find this man's paradise by paying 5 yuan. I really didn't think that there would be such old-fashioned and sickly countries in the Asian region. Lin Gu looked at the absent-minded girls and felt pity for them. They are too pitiful. Their best years, their most precious youth, were lost here. Su Yun had seen the situation in Africa that was even worse than theirs, so he was much calmer now. Human civilization will always improve little by little. This is the history of mankind. A situation that can only disappear with the growth of civilization is not something that can be changed with the strength of an individual. If it wasn't for the trip to Africa, Su Yun definitely wouldn't have this kind of realization. It could be said that it was because of the experience in Africa that Su Yun had this kind of realization. It allowed Su Yun to face these terrible things calmly. How long do they have to stay in this place? Lin Gu looked at the underage girls and felt a pain in his heart. The more debt a girl has, the longer she has to stay here. And the longer she stays here, the greater the chance of her contracting AIDS. Su Yun said expressionlessly. In the past decade, this area has replaced Thailand as the place with the most AIDS cases in Asia. Lin Gu was stunned. AIDS. I saw a report. A third of the girls here are AIDS patients or carriers. But some men are unwilling to take safety measures even though they know the risk of contracting AIDS. The girls here don't dare to oppose this, because once the boss finds out, they will be beaten and driven away. But this way, who knows how many young girls will suffer misfortune? Lin Gu glared. Brother, we can't just ignore this kind of thing, right? It's beyond our control. Su Yun said helplessly, even if we can burn down the entire village today, what can we change? Even if their boss is killed by us, their boss and his family will continue to work in this industry. Even if these girls are rescued by us today, after they lose their ability to work, they will be scolded when they return home, or even sold again. There are some things that we can't stop. Even if we completely destroy them, we still can't stop them. This disgusting phenomenon was like the cancer cells in a cancer patient's body. No matter what, there was no way to eradicate it. No matter what, there was no way to control it. No matter how cleanly it was removed, it would still grow again. Moreover, this industry had a huge market in Huaxia. This was something that Su Yun and the others could not control. This kind of ugly phenomenon would probably only disappear after many, many years. After all, human civilization had only existed for a few thousand years. At the very beginning, they were all barbarians. It took countless days and nights to create the current civilized world, and this civilized world still needed to continue to progress. Actually, thinking about it, the current civilization was much better than the barbarian world of a few thousand years ago. Then we have to do something, right? Lin Gu felt that if he did not do something, he would feel uneasy. Su Yun glanced at him. Then what do you think will make you feel better? Lin Gu thought for half a minute and suddenly shook his head. No matter what I do, I won't feel better. It will only make me feel worse and more uneasy. So, let's go. What the eye doesn't see, the heart doesn't grieve over, Lin Gu said. Brother, I understand what you meant when you said those words to me. The world cannot be changed by individual strength, especially this kind of phenomenon. I'm afraid that it will take years of social progress to change it. It's good that you can understand. After Su Yun finished speaking, he stepped on the accelerator. Don't put too much psychological burden on yourself. This kind of thing is a product of social phenomenon. It's impossible for us to change it. Let alone here, even in our country, this kind of phenomenon exists. It's just that it's not so blatant, not so high profile, and not so reasonable and legal. All kinds of dirty things exist in the gray area. Lin Gu was in a bad mood. He knew that Su Yun was telling the truth. The world was so big, and there were many things that made people feel dark. No one would feel uncomfortable if they did not see it, but once they saw it with their own eyes, the feeling would become completely different. No one would be willing to face this feeling, and Su Yun was not willing to. Even though Su Yun did not say anything on the way and did not show any feelings, it did not mean that he did not feel uncomfortable. However, Su Yun could already force himself to swallow this feeling. Today's backward and scary things would disappear one day in the future. This was the progress of human civilization. This day would come, but a little patience was needed. Lin Gu was still younger than Su Yun in this aspect, so he felt more uncomfortable. Lin Gu, who was unable to calm the flames in his heart for a long time, suddenly wanted to shout and vent the anger in his heart. However, he was unable to shout for a long time. He did not want others to see him like a lunatic, because no one here would agree with his point of view. No one would think that those girls were pitiful. Even the girls themselves did not think that they were pitiful. The car moved forward. After completely leaving the village, Lin Gu slowly said, "Brother, where are we going to cross the border?" "Of course, we are going to a place where there are many of our own people. That way, we can meet our own people earlier and take us to take a bath." Su Yun smiled. The places where there were many of their own people were the places where the drug dealers liked to go. The places where it was more convenient to hide and escape were the places with the most of their own people. Su Yun believed that they would be targeted soon after they crossed the border and would be stopped by their own people. "Are we going to walk into a trap?" Lin Ji's mood improved a lot when he heard this. It's a good opportunity to see how powerful our border police and anti-drug police are. If we are targeted, we must cooperate. Otherwise, they really have the right to shoot us to death. Su Yun said helplessly. "Don't take a bullet before we even see the leader." "Brother, didn't you say that you are very familiar with this place?" Lin Gu said. "Don't the people here know you?" Su Yun smiled bitterly. "The people who come out to work are all frontline staff. Of course, they don't know me. The people who know me are the people who are in charge of the overall situation. Then, when you came here for a mission, didn't you say hello to the border police?" Lin Gu was obviously very curious about this issue. "If your face is painted black and green, can you recognize who you are? Let alone others." Su Yun said, "When the time comes, just cooperate. The brothers at the border who are in charge of drug enforcement have bad tempers, so you should be more understanding if they go overboard. If it were you, your temper would be very bad too. This is the job." Lin Gu nodded. "I understand, brother. I am not that kind of petty person who will lose my temper with cute anti-drug soldiers. With your words, I am relieved. Su Yun, when the time comes, you must remember what you said. Don't really get angry and not recognize anyone. Look at what you are saying. Am I that kind of person? I am very magnanimous." Lin Gu said, "This is not a matter of principle. I can definitely understand. If I were in their position, I would be like that too." Su Yun nodded with satisfaction. "Okay, that's good. We will enter a deserted border in 10 minutes. That place is overgrown with weeds and is very dangerous. Maybe we will really encounter armed drug traffickers, so you must be ready to fight at any time." Lin Gu had already prepared his guns. They were all good guns that he had seized last night. "Brother, don't worry. I can't wait to run into those armed drug dealers. When the time comes, I'll shoot them one by one." Chapter 3282. Just as Su Yun and Lin Gu were about to cross the border along a hidden path to return home, a vicious curse came from the distance. It was the local language. "I lent your parents so much money. You don't even want to do business for a day and run away. Believe it or not, I will go back and beat you to death." The voice of the cursor became clearer and clearer. Su Yun and Lin Gu soon saw a few figures appear in the dense forest dozens of meters away. The cursor was a middle-aged man in his 40s. He copied the local language. The local language of Myanmar belonged to the Tibeto-Burman branch of the Sino-Tibetan language family. There were 20 to 30 million people in the Irrawaddy River Basin and the Delta area who used this language to communicate. Su Yun and Lin Gu both knew a little about it. Because the border people in the southern border of Hua were also familiar with this language, it was not difficult for the border people to communicate with the Burmese people. Although they were not proficient in this language, they could roughly understand what they were saying. "Brother, that girl was forced," Lin Gu said lightly. After he saw the sad village just now, he did not have an uncontrollable impulse to everything in front of him. Su Yun nodded. "This girl is very bold. She escaped and ran to Hua. Smart. But she did not expect that these people in this place have almost no understanding of the border. As long as there are no border guards monitoring, they will not take crossing the border as a terrible thing." "What should we do?" Lin Gu said, Do we turn a blind eye, or, since we have already encountered it, how can we turn a blind eye? Su Yun said lightly. For those girls who accepted fate, Su Yun would not be a hero or play the role of a savior. But for the girl in front of him who did not want to accept fate and did not want to stay in this place, Su Yun would not turn a blind eye. Lin Guo was waiting for Su Yun to say this. At this time, he was also very sure that Su Yun would not turn a blind eye. They couldn't persuade the girls who stayed willingly because their deep-rooted, old-fashioned ideas had already been set in stone. But this girl who dared to struggle, dared to say no to injustice, and dared to change her fate was different. If she didn't want to stay here, they would definitely help her escape from this place that would ruin her life. This terrifying place was definitely hell for any girl. Over the past 100 years, how many girls had their youth, their destinies, and their lives ruined here? Do you think you can change your fate by running to Huaxia? The cursing middle-aged man gave the girl a tight slap. Let me tell you, even if you escape to Huaxia, you will be caught by human traffickers at the border of Huaxia who specialize in catching poor girls like you. The girl did not say a word. Blood was drawn from the corner of her mouth. They will sell you to the same place, and you will do the same job. The cursing middle-aged man had no intention of stopping. Or they will directly sell you to the mountainous areas of Huaxia, those barren places where you can't even afford to eat. Su Yun and Lin Guo were already approaching the crowd step by step, but they did not notice. Huaxia is a barren place with no money at all. The men in that place can't find a wife. If you are sold there, you will probably have to serve a family of several men. Do you think you can live comfortably like that? The cursing middle-aged man said aggressively. The girl shook her head vigorously. No. No. Huaxia is a rich country, a country of equality, a country of freedom. Rich country? The cursing middle-aged man questioned. Do you think all Huaxia people are as rich as those who travel abroad? Don't be naive, stop dreaming. Huaxia also has a lot of poor people. Do you think all Huaxia people can afford to travel abroad? Huaxia has a population of 1.4 billion people. If they had the money to travel abroad, the whole world would have fallen long ago. There are very few of them who have the money to travel abroad. It's only 1%. No, not even 1%. Without waiting for the girl to refute, the cursing middle-aged man said, The Huaxia you see on TV is all fake. Huaxia is not that rich. They don't have many skyscrapers. Most people live on the bare minimum. Most people can't afford to buy a house or a car. The bombardment left the girl speechless. Indeed, she did not have much experience, so when she heard this, she could not help but feel a little disappointed. Hey, you haven't been to Huaxia, right? It's not good to talk nonsense like this, right? When Lin Gu jumped out of the car and appeared in front of them, they were all stunned. For this kind of remote and unmanned management office at the border, even if people met each other, they would not speak because they knew that their actions did not conform to the rules. Moreover, the middle-aged man also knew what kind of crimes the people who came and went in this place were committing. When he looked up and saw Su Yun and Lin Gu, he muttered in his heart. These two were obviously Huaxia people. The Burmese people did not look so delicate. You'd better mind your own business. The cursing middle-aged man threw a sentence at Lin Gu without any politeness. Lin Gu pursed his lips and said, That's not good. If you speak so impolitely, you won't have any friends. It's none of your business what I say. You'd better mind your own business. The cursing middle-aged man obviously did not want to waste too much time with Lin Gu. The pitiful girl looked at Lin Gu with an expectant gaze. Lin Gu naturally felt pity for her. This girl was at most 15 or 16 years old. If she was brought back by this bastard, she would wither away in the rainy season, which was the time when flowers were about to bloom. We're not meddling. We just want to let a frog at the bottom of a well like you know whether Huaxia is really poor. Su Yun said. The cursing middle-aged man waved his hand. I don't need to listen to you. I only believe what I see with my own eyes. There are at least a few million poor people in the 6 provinces in the southern part of Huaxia. I know a poor person in Huaxia who only earns a few yuan a day. Su Yun was stunned for a moment, and Lin Gu suddenly fell silent. The thatched house he and his mother live in is made of branches and bamboo. Some cow dung is smeared in the gaps. The cold wind and light come in through countless holes. Doesn't Huaxia have an idiom called 4 bare walls? But strictly speaking, his house doesn't even have a single wall. He's lived there for decades. The cursing middle-aged man scolded without holding back. He has a wooden board placed on top of 4 piles of bricks. That's his bed. There's no table, not even a bench. The house is split into 2. The left side is a cow pen. The weeds are scattered with cow dung, and the air is filled with a pungent smell. There are 5 people in the house. Rice can only be eaten once every 10 days, and meat can only be eaten 3 times a year. The outer walls of the house are filled with small holes made by wild bees. Every spring, wild bees will fly in and out. There's also a big hole made by mountain rats at the bottom of the wall. There's 5 to 6 caddies of pig fat in a white plastic bucket. When cooking, cut a small piece and rub it in the pot. That's when there's oil. Most of the time, it's just boiled wild vegetables. It's so difficult to live in a primary school in the mountains. I saw it with my own eyes. 150 students were squeezed into a few prefabricated houses. Those were classrooms and dormitories. The front half of the house was filled with desks, and the back half was filled with bunk beds. There were 4 beds, and each bed could fit 2 people. 8 people could sleep, but there were many students. When school started, they had to draw lots. Those who drew lots would sleep on the beds, and those who didn't would sleep on the desks. Dozens of girls squeezed into the bunk beds to sleep. One winter night, a fire burned down their classroom, which was also their dormitory. From that day onwards, they couldn't go to school anymore. Su Yun suddenly scolded angrily, "Are you done?" The cursing middle-aged man was startled by Su Yun's scolding, but he still had no intention of stopping. "What? Are you unhappy after hearing what I said? You Huaxia people only see the good things about your Huaxia. You only see how you're number 1 in the world, number 1 in the world. What's the use of being number 1 in the world? Don't your poor people still live the same life as us poor countries?" Lin Gu couldn't stand it anymore. He flew up and punched the middle-aged man in the face. The middle-aged man let out a blood-curdling scream as he spat out his teeth. He was in so much pain that he rolled around on the ground. The few young men beside him immediately shouted and rushed up to hit Lin Gu, but how could they be a match for Lin Gu? Lin Gu knocked them all to the ground without any effort. Chapter 3283. Don't hit him. Su Yun stopped Lin Gu. Doing so would only make them look angry. But to be honest, Su Yun was indeed a little angry. He was angry at the bastard's words, but he was also ashamed of what the bastard had said. Because the reality of poverty was something that made Huaxia feel ashamed. Poverty wasn't caused by individuals. It was caused by living conditions, transportation problems, and thousands of years of history. Some places had always been poor. Huaxia was a big country. The country's leaders had to deal with a lot of national and foreign affairs every day. Their energy was almost completely spent. The main reason why the poor counties couldn't get rid of poverty was because of the local officials. They didn't have the ability to be civil servants. Take the well-known Shao Chi Kong for example. That place was a World Heritage Site. During the peak season, it was always crowded with tourists. Just 5 kilometers away was Libo County's Yaoshan Village's Mushroom Village. The local specialty, Yaoshan chicken, was delicious, but it had never opened up a market nearby. Because the village had 1,000 people, and 99.9% of them were illiterate. Most of the villagers didn't know how to find a market. The lack of education caused them to be mentally poor. This was the time to show the ability of a leader. If the village secretary wasn't educated, then blame the town secretary. If the town secretary wasn't capable, then look for their county secretary. If they didn't have the ability to solve the problem of poverty, then don't wear the hat on your head. People who don't shit aren't abominable. Abominable people are those who occupy the latrine but don't shit. These kind of civil servants who don't do anything are the most abominable. These kind of people who eat off the country's finances but can't help the country's leaders solve their problems are the most abominable. Su Yun didn't care if the middle-aged man's words were true or not. He had to do something when he returned to China. He wouldn't set a limit for himself. As long as Sky Entertainment Group had enough liquid funds, he would use all the profits to build Hope primary schools and help the poor children in the mountainous areas. He believed that whether it was Ruan Qingshuang or Zhuo Meiyan, they would support his decision without hesitation. Why would he need so much money? As a mature corporation like Sky Entertainment, they had a fixed amount of profit every year. They didn't need to worry about starving to death. Why would he need so much money? Was he accumulating so that he could get on the Forbes rich list? Su Yun didn't care about those meaningless things at all. He felt that those things were worthless. There was also the so-called charity donations from the rich. Rich people from the Huaxia could spend close to 1 billion to buy a mansion in London. Each mansion had 10 bedrooms and 9 bathrooms. There were 600 billionaires in Huaxia, surpassing the US empire. If the 100 billionaires in Hong Kong and Macau were included, there were now more than 700 billionaires in Greater China, crushing the US empire. Huaxia's economy was slowing down, but the number of rich people had increased by leaps and bounds. The National Development and Reform Commission announced that Huaxia had entered the ranks of middle to high-income countries. When the son of a rich man threw a party, he would directly invite some beautiful girl group called 48 or 38 to wear uniforms and dress up as bunny girls to dance. At his birthday party in Sanya, he would attract more than 100 young models to tear each other's clothes to support him. This rich man was the one who bought a mansion in London. He did do charity, but if you knew where his donations were going, perhaps the admiration would be greatly reduced. He donated 100 million to the Huaxia Football Association to support the development of Huaxia's football industry. Could Huaxia's football still be saved? Don't even mention 100 million. Even if you donated 10 billion to him, this group of bastards was still the same. Huaxia's football was the mud that couldn't help the wall. Everyone in the country, even elementary school students, knew that Huaxia's football wasn't without talent. It was this corrupt organization that destroyed Huaxia's football. No money, no problem. Don't play football. Let's not talk about blocking the ball or black whistling. Any football genius would be destroyed in Huaxia. In Huaxia, what was needed was connections and money. If you wanted to play football and be valued, you had to give money. Without money, you couldn't play football. Arsenal's core strength, the iron waist of the French national team, Patrick Vieira, was evaluated by a Huaxia team manager in 1996 as rough skills, slow reaction, poor awareness, lack of overall vision. Ukraine's nuclear warhead, Shevchenko, AC Milan's former super striker, was said by the senior management of a Huaxia team. Not strong enough, average skills, not outstanding speed, not good awareness. Of course, there was also Uruguay's legendary player, Recoba, who was rejected by Huaxia's team. Therefore, Huaxia's football was simply hopeless. No matter how much money was donated, it was hopeless. How could a rich man donate so much money to Huaxia's football? Could this be considered charity? How many of Huaxia's players who could play football and do well in the team came from poor families? How many of them did not have connections? Not a single one. Those who had nothing to do with money had long been brushed off by their coaches in primary school. They would not be sent to any youth team, provincial team, or recommendation level by level just because of their talent. Those who were recommended were all people with connections who gave gifts and money. In any case, Su Yun would never spend a single cent of Sky Entertainment Group's money on Huaxia's football. Could spending money save Huaxia's football? Could spending money change Huaxia's football? This was absolute nonsense. Just look at the traditional strong team, Brazil. How terrifying was the alien Ronaldo who spoke on the day of the king of football, Pelé's retirement. The later Ronaldo and the current Cristiano Ronaldo were like hammers in front of the real Ronaldo. Those who had seen Ronaldo at his peak were definitely lucky. Even watching the video now would make them feel excited. Ronaldo would always be called Ronaldo, and Ronaldo would always be called Ronaldo, but no one would call Ronaldo Ronaldin. Because in the world of football, Ronaldinho would always be Ronaldo, even if he was once the world's number one. Cristiano Ronaldo would always be Ronaldo, even if he could take all the glory. In front of Ronaldo, the other Ronaldos were floating clouds. Although he only had one league title, countless people fell in love with football because of Ronaldo. Countless people became star players because of Ronaldo. Was Brazil rich? At least not as rich as Huaxia. Just look at Brazil's Olympic Games and you would know how big the gap between Brazil and Huaxia was. The gap in sports investment was at least 10 times. Therefore, Huaxia's investment in football was definitely more than Brazil's. This did not prevent them from being an established strong team, nor did it prevent them from cultivating one legendary star player after another. Pelé, Romario, Ronaldo, Kaká, Neymar. There had been no shortage of star players since ancient times. This was not a matter of money at all. Therefore, the money that the rich man donated to Huaxia's Football Association to develop Huaxia's football was completely wasted. It was completely fed to the dogs. At least 90 million out of 100 million would be embezzled by those big-bellied, sanctimonious people who kept saying that they were doing so-and-so for Huaxia's football. If this 100 million was used to build Hope Primary School, how much could it build? In that kind of poor mountain village, 1 million could be given to the children's parents to build a house for their children's education. They could definitely build a better teaching building than the construction team that took 3 million to build. There were no teachers. With an annual salary of 500,000, they could find current teachers to teach. After teaching for a few years, they would be promoted to a senior position. There was definitely a group of excellent teachers all over the country who would enthusiastically sign up. They would definitely not be careless. After all, teachers could not even get an annual salary of 50,000. If they felt that they would be promoted to a senior position with an annual salary of 500,000, they would definitely earn a lot of extra money through private teaching. They did not care about 500,000 and had strong family connections. They were not worried about being promoted to a senior position. Therefore, with 1 million to build a house and 4 million to hire 8 teachers for each subject, even if they built houses every year, it would only be 5 million a year. This year, 100 million could support the education of 20 children in poor mountain areas. 1 billion could support the education of 200 poor mountain areas. The random donations from the rich people all over the country would be in the billions. Could this solve the education problems of hundreds of poor mountain areas? Why was the education problem of the poor mountain areas still not solved? It was because the charity money was not used in the right place at all. Chapter 3284. If the charity donations were used in the right places, then there wouldn't be so many children in poor mountainous areas who couldn't get an education, and there wouldn't be so many people who couldn't afford medical treatment. How many terminally ill patients could this money save? With so many charity donations every year, why was it that people could still see donations on WeChat? Why were there always so many children in poor mountainous areas who couldn't afford to go to school? It was as if the so-called charity donations and charity funds were of little use and power. It wasn't as good as the donations of ordinary people in society. There was no need to talk about the tricks involved. Talking too much would hurt feelings, and talking too much would hurt people's hearts. Therefore, Su Yun never started any charity funds that seemed to have ulterior motives. He also didn't donate in a way that would make him the headlines. Of course, Su Yun didn't look down on people who wanted to make a big fuss just by donating. People didn't have the right to criticize a person's low-key and high-profile nature. Su Yun liked to do this kind of thing in a low-key way. Su Yun liked to do this kind of thing himself. This was very similar to Zhua Meiyan. Zhua Meiyan also learned from Zhang Taisui. When Zhang Taisui founded Sky Entertainment Group, Sky Entertainment Group created a construction team. This construction team didn't do anything else but build Hope elementary schools all over the country. All the money was paid by Sky Entertainment Group, and these people were paid very well. This was a construction team directly under the Sky Entertainment Group. Very few people knew about it. Soo-yoon only found out about it after joining the Sky Entertainment Group. When he was in the army, he didn't even know about this construction team's existence. There were many people in the construction team. They could build 3 schools all over the country at the same time, and they could build 6 schools every year. It had been 20 years since Zhang Tai-sui established this department, and Sky Entertainment Group's construction team had never stopped. Suddenly, Soo-yoon decided that when he went back, he would increase the construction team's investment and expand the scale by at least 3 times. They could build 10 schools all over the country at the same time. They could build 20 schools every year. They could build 200 in 10 years, and 1,000 in 50 years. Soo-yoon believed that when he died, the poor mountainous areas all over the country would be Sky Entertainment Group's Hope elementary schools. At that time, he would have the face to meet Zhang Tai-sui and tell his godfather that he didn't waste his time in Sky Entertainment Group. He had done everything he could. However, this was all for later. Right now, Soo-yoon wanted to deal with this arrogant middle-aged man in front of him. Lin Ge had already shielded the girl behind him. He did not use too much force because he knew that the other party was just an ordinary person. He would not go so far as to threaten their lives. Moreover, they were at the border, which was a sensitive area. "How much did your parents borrow from him?" Soo-yoon asked the girl softly. The girl's face was filled with fear. $500. Soo-yoon frowned. Lin Ge was even more confused. 500 USD? In other words, it was only 3,000 RMB. 3,000 yuan was enough to bury a 15-year-old girl and throw her to such a place. Your family did this to you for 500 RMB. Are they still King human? Lin Ge couldn't help but curse. How can such bastards be worthy of being parents? They had no choice. I have 2 brothers to feed. If they didn't exchange me for money, they wouldn't be able to live. The girl was still frightened, but at this time, she didn't show any hatred for her family. She understood her parents. Obviously, she knew what fate had planned for her, and she accepted it. However, after coming here, she really couldn't adapt. Yesterday was the girl's first day here. On the first day, she was ruined by the boss and some of the people here. In their words, this was to get her into work mode as soon as possible. Therefore, they didn't treat her as a person at all. After a night of torture, the girl decided to escape before dawn. However, when she escaped, she accidentally woke up the gatekeeper. She had no sense of direction at all and ran desperately to a place where there was no one. In the end, she ran here, but she was still caught by the boss. She didn't dare to run to a place where there were people, because if the people here met her, they wouldn't help her. Instead, they would help the boss catch her. That was why she ran to a place where there was no one. If she hadn't met Soo-yoon and Lin Ge, she would have been beaten half to death when she was brought back. Then, she would have to continue doing the things she didn't want to do. Soo-yoon gave Lin Ge a signal. Lin Ge immediately jumped into the car and found a stack of money in the car. It was at least a few thousand USD. It was originally brought by the people in the car. Lin Ge took out 500 RMB and went to the boss. He threw the money directly at the boss's face. "Take the money, this girl is no longer under your control." The middle-aged man who was beaten and his subordinates looked at each other. They were angry, but they didn't dare to say anything. Although Lin Ge only taught them a small lesson, they didn't dare to be presumptuous. The difference in strength was too great. They were no match for him at all. "We have rules here. You need her to earn twice the amount of money before she can go back." The middle-aged man didn't give up. He took 2 USD from these girls each time. If she earned 1,000 USD, she would have to do at least 500 business. Lin Ge was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. He threw another 500 RMB to him. "Is this enough?" Raise your head and look at me. Is this enough? The middle-aged man had no choice. He raised his head and looked at Lin Gu. He nodded and said, Enough. Enough. Then let me ask you, did they do anything to you? Su Yun looked at the girl and tried to make his voice calm. The girl's tears flowed down instantly. She nodded and cried to Su Yun about how she was humiliated by these men last night. Although Su Yun looked calm on the surface, his heart was already burning. Lin Gu clenched his fists so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. He wanted nothing more than to chop these men up and feed them to the dogs. They were 2F** king inhumane. They could even do this to a little girl. You heard it too. Su Yun listened and said to the men in front of him, How should this debt be settled? She gave you what you should, but how do you deal with the harm you caused her? The middle-aged man took out a $50 note. This money is enough to make it up to her. Lin Gu suddenly raised his leg and kicked the money in the middle-aged man's hand away. He couldn't hold it in anymore. F***CKU. You really don't treat people as people. The middle-aged man was scared and quickly retreated. Then how do you want to solve it? How do we want to solve it? Lin Gu snorted and suddenly threw a $50 note in the middle-aged man's face. Didn't you think these years could make it up to someone? Fine, I'll give you this money. Take it. The middle-aged man didn't know what Lin Gu meant. He took the money and said with a trembling body, The price here. This can indeed make up for it. And Lin Gu suddenly kicked the man's crotch. In that instant, Su Yun seemed to hear the sound of an egg breaking, followed by a heart-wrenching scream that resounded through the entire border area in the morning. The sun also rose from the east with this scream, emitting light selflessly in the middle of the dawn. Since you think you can make up for it, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Lin Gu spat. If you were a Huaxia person, I would definitely beat you up until your own mother couldn't recognize you. Get lost. Don't let me see you again. After this group of people left in a sorry state, the girl's mood stabilized. However, although the girl's mood stabilized, once she thought about where she would go in the future, she became melancholy again. Because she really didn't have anywhere to go, if she went home now, she would definitely be sold again. Because she was very clear that the lack of money at home wasn't something that could be solved with just $500. At this time, Su Yun patted the girl's shoulder, glanced at Lin Gu, and then got in the car. Lin Gu stuffed the remaining few $1,000 into the girl's pocket. Take this money back, don't let your parents sell you again. You're very brave, I believe you will resist your parents next time, right? The girl nodded silently. Tears couldn't help but flow down again, but this time there was no fear in the tears. Although Su Yun and Lin Gu both knew that everything they did was just a drop in the bucket and couldn't solve the actual problem of this place, they still did it. Sometimes, people's emotions couldn't control their actions. Chapter 3285. Whether or not the girl could resist her parents, Su Yun and Lin Gu didn't know. These were things that they couldn't continue to pay attention to, but they still took action to solve this matter. Perhaps it was because they could get some temporary comfort. The choice was always made in an instant, but the aftertaste was endless. The village boss who fled in panic, the girl who left in fear and trepidation, would eventually become a memory. Su Yun and Lin Gu chose to continue on the road. They still had unfinished business. The beast head in their hands was the heaviest burden on their shoulders. Before the head of the beast was safely delivered to a safe place, everything they did had to be done with the safety of the head of the beast as the prerequisite. Even if they had only offended the boss of a small Huang village, they still had to leave this place as quickly as possible to avoid any trouble. And now on the road, they might encounter dangerous armed drug traffickers. These were all things that Su Yun and the others needed to be on guard against, so they really didn't have the extra energy to deal with too many distractions. After the car drove 5 kilometers into this desolate place, Su Yun and Lin Gu seemed to have forgotten everything that had happened before. After Su Yun entered this relatively desolate place, his entire state changed from before. Although Lin Gu was driving, Su Yun had been standing and observing everything around him. There were too many armed drug traffickers going in and out of Hua Xia's border. In this desolate mountain forest, there was no road. This was probably the most dangerous border between Hua Xia and Myanmar. Facing the rugged hillside, Lin Gu really couldn't think of a way to make the car move forward. Abandon the car, there's no road ahead for the car to go. Su Yun made a prompt decision. He immediately began to prepare things. The two of them each hung a box with the beast head in front of their chest. They also took all the remaining guns and ammunition in the car with them. Lin Gu knew that Su Yun was prepared. None of them could guarantee that they would encounter any trouble in this place. It would be best if they didn't encounter any trouble, but if they did, it would definitely be big trouble. Lin Gu was very sure of this. The two of them carefully followed the determined direction. The few kilometers were very quiet. Other than this place being a little desolate, the fragrance of flowers and the chirping of birds were refreshing. The weeds were about 10 centimeters tall. This was really something that Lin Gu hadn't seen in other places. It could only be said that this place had more rain and sunlight. Because of the heavy rain, the ground here was very slippery. There were moss and other things like it. It was especially slippery. If people stepped on it, there was a possibility of them falling. After Su Yun and the two of them walked for a while, they suddenly stopped. While Lin Gu was puzzled, Su Yun stretched out his hand and pointed at the moss on the stone under his feet. Lin Gu was startled. Just now, they had been led by Su Yun all the way here. Su Yun had found a relatively easy path, so although the ground was slippery, they didn't see any moss. Now that Lin Gu suddenly saw the slippery moss on the stone, he immediately had some ideas in his mind. Immediately, he followed Su Yun's gaze. On the road ahead, there were exposed stones, and the stones were definitely slippery with moss. It was completely different from before. Su Yun gave Lin Gu a look. Lin Gu immediately understood. The road ahead was walked by people, so the moss was trampled off. People had walked on this road, and it was impossible for them to disappear after reaching this place. So there was only one situation, only one possibility. Someone had gone into hiding after coming here. Normal people wouldn't appear in this kind of place. The road in this kind of place was also created by armed drug dealers for many years. There was only one possibility for armed drug dealers to suddenly hide. That was, they smelled the smell and perceived the danger. But this was still in Myanmar. There couldn't be any danger at all. Although the anti-drug personnel of Hua Xia were strict, they wouldn't come to Myanmar. This was a matter of principle. So if armed drug dealers suddenly hid, their target must be Su Yun and Lin Gu. By the time the two of them realized that something was wrong, it was already too late. More than a dozen fully armed men suddenly appeared around them from all directions. At the same time, Su Yun and Lin Gu also took out their weapons, loaded them, and aimed. The tense atmosphere instantly ignited the scene. Everyone's face was full of tension. Not only Su Yun and Lin Gu, but also the people on the other side. Obviously, this was a group of armed drug dealers. They were all people with good skills. They arranged people to keep an eye on them along the way. The people in front didn't notice anything unusual, but the people at the back inadvertently found that Su Yun and Lin Gu had taken their route. These people naturally had to be careful, so they found a favorable position for them to ambush, and then quietly waited for Su Yun and Lin Gu to take the bait. Compared to the Hua Xia anti-drug personnel in front, the situation behind them was easier to make these armed drug dealers vigilant and fearful. Because the identities of Su Yun and Lin Gu made them feel mysterious, they couldn't guess. Everyone just took the same route. There's no need to waste time with our own people, right? Su Yun said tentatively to this group of armed drug dealers. The leader of this group was a young man with a crew cut. His lower lip was pierced with a row of lip piercings, which made him look quite disgusting. Then there was his green tattoo, which went all the way up his entire neck. It was green and gave people a disgusting feeling. So, there was only one word to describe him: disgusting. The disgusting young man held a gun in his hand and didn't dare to be negligent. Our own people? Who's your own people? This road is our road. Who are you, and what qualifications do you have to take this road? There's more than one road to sneak into Huaxia, and your name isn't written on this road. Su Yun, you said the road is yours. Isn't that too overbearing? I said the road is mine, so the road is mine. This disgusting young man didn't intend to give in at all. He said aggressively, you took my road. Shouldn't you give me an explanation? Don't say it's your road. You said it's your road. If you call it, will it answer you? Lin Gu said, if it answers you, then fine. I'll immediately admit that it's your road. I'll give you any explanation you want. But if it doesn't agree, then don't blame us. Don't give me that. This disgusting young man didn't intend to give him face at all. He turned hostile on the spot. Explain. Otherwise, don't blame us for taking action. What explanation do you want? Su Yun, explain what I do? The disgusting young man stared coldly at Su Yun and didn't speak. Su Yun nodded. Okay, then I'll explain to you what I do. You can use your brain and think about what I do in this place. If I were a man in any other kind of business, would I need to take such a sneaky route? After saying that, Su Yun pointed at Lin Gu. Do I need to bring a bodyguard? The initial doubts in the disgusting young man's heart disappeared, but it didn't mean that he didn't have any doubts. He still had doubts in his heart. What's in your box? That's our personal privacy. There's no need to explain it to you. Su Yun, if I ask you what's in your backpacks, you won't tell me, right? The disgusting young man said coldly, you know the answer. Aren't you asking the same thing? Su Yun, what's the difference between what we pack? No one would put goods in a box. There must be something wrong with your box. The disgusting young man said bluntly. As long as you open the box and let me see what's inside, if you're really the same as us, I'll let you go. Su Yun smiled. How would I know if you're going to rob me if you're sure it's inside? If I wanted to rob you, I would have already done it. Why would I waste my breath talking to you? The disgusting young man raised his voice and questioned sternly. Su Yun didn't back down. He immediately retorted, that's because you don't dare to rob me. You're afraid that the bullet won't have eyes and will be the first to hit you. In an instant, the atmosphere was tense. Chapter 3286. Armed drug dealers who had been out all year round were trading their lives for money. They weren't afraid of a fight. However, they wouldn't risk their lives so easily if they weren't forced into a desperate situation. To put it bluntly, life was their own. Life and death were their own responsibility. No one could help them. Although these armed drug dealers weren't afraid of death, the things they had done all year round made them very open-minded. They understood that they were their own people in this world. Their lives were their own. Pain was their own pain, exhaustion, and death was their own death. So what if someone sympathized with them? In the end, it was still up to them to clean up the mess. Some people could be looked forward to, such as the others who came out with them to do this, but they couldn't rely on them. Of course, he had to wipe his tears and stop his blood by himself. Therefore, although they were all fully armed and on standby, no one was the first to cause chaos. Leave the box, and I'll give you a way out. The young man in the lead warned again. This is the last chance I'm giving you. If you really know what's in the box, you definitely won't be willing to shoot. Su Yun sneered. If you want me to leave such a valuable thing behind, you might as well leave me alive. Upon hearing Su Yun's words, the other party's curiosity was instantly piqued. He looked at Su Yun with a puzzled face. What's in the box? Open it. Won't it be yours if you get it? Su Yun's gun had been aimed at the disgusting young man. I'm afraid you don't have the ability. Because no one knew what was in the box on Su Yun and Lin Gu. Curiosity killed the cat. This saying wasn't false at all. The more they didn't know what was in the box, the more they didn't dare to shoot. If they shot and destroyed the valuable thing inside, even they wouldn't be able to forgive themselves, let alone others. Su Yun knew very well that no one would take the lead among these selfish people. Everyone was waiting for others to do stupid things. Then, they would rely on their luck to see if they had a chance to profit. The more the enemy thought this way, the safer Su Yun and Lin Gu felt. Under the orders of the young man, 2 of them were asked to go forward and take the box. Although the 2 of them were extremely unwilling, they didn't dare to disobey the young boss's orders. After all, this was the first time the old boss had arranged for the young boss to follow the team. If they didn't listen to the order and the young boss complained when they went back, they would definitely be in big trouble. The pressure from all sides forced the 2 of them to step forward. Su Yun gave Lin Gu a look, and Lin Gu immediately understood. Just as the 2 of them separately approached Su Yun and Lin Gu to snatch the box, Su Yun and Lin Gu respectively used grappling and blade snatching respectively. They first disarmed them, then controlled them, and directly restrained the 2 people in front of them. Then, Su Yun and Lin Gu quickly stood back to back, leaving their backs to their trusted brothers. This way, they didn't have any scruples. The 2 of them now had a mountain behind their backs and a shield in front of their chests. They really didn't care if the other party dared to shoot. Human shields were better than bulletproof vests. These armed men who had been out fighting all year round had strong bones and muscles. They weren't like weak ordinary people who could be easily penetrated by bullets. Their muscles were well developed. Unless it was a headshot or a close-range large-caliber bullet, the bullet would generally be embedded in their body and wouldn't be able to penetrate their muscle tissue. Although bulletproof vests could also block bullets, there was no way to dissolve the impact of the bullet like a human. That was why the effect of these 2 people was better than bulletproof vests. In the face of the sudden change, this group of armed drug dealers finally paid attention to Su Yun and Lin Gu. Before, they more or less didn't take the 2 of them seriously. After all, they had more people. In this case, no one would believe that the 2 people who were surrounded would dare to resist. There was no other way. Who asked them to meet the 2 kings of hell, Su Yun and Lin Gu? Who knew what they would do next? Transporting goods to the mainland, right? How many kilograms? Su Yun said coldly. The Golden Triangle region delivered goods to Huaxia in large quantities. After all, it was wholesale prices. It wasn't as expensive here as it was in China. It's not up to you to ask. The young man in the lead hid behind his own people as much as possible. If you don't want to fight to the death, then let them go. Su Yun controlled the person in his hand. Suddenly, he cut open a bulge in the person's sleeve. Bags of goods, all fell out from inside. The armed drug dealers would carry the goods with them in order to carry them safely and to make it easier for them to avoid being caught. Everyone here must have hidden goods. They wouldn't leave empty-handed. One after another, Su Yun cut open the places where the poison could be hidden on the bodies of the captives, and the results truly shocked them. This person was constantly dropping goods from his body. Just by looking at it, it seemed to be at least a dozen kilograms. According to this calculation, the dozen or so people here must be carrying the same amount of goods. This group of people must be transporting at least 150 to 200 kilograms of goods this time. You know the laws of Huaxia. More than 50 grams is a major drug trafficking. At least a life sentence. You are all armed, so you can be sentenced to death directly. Su Yun, with so many drugs, how many people will be killed? Have you ever thought about it? The laws of Huaxia can't control me. You can't control me either. The young man in the lead snapped. Let them go. Let's mind our own business and not interfere with each other. But you have already interfered with me. Su Yun, I hate being interfered with. After Su Yun finished speaking, he signaled to Lin Gu. Lin Gu nodded. Since these guys had so many harmful things on them, they could already be sentenced to death. Then, he would give them an immediate execution. Da. Lin Gu pulled the trigger first. Taking advantage of their unpreparedness, he attacked them without them knowing. 3 of the guys who didn't hide their bodies behind cover in time fell down instantly. The disgusting young man in the lead realized the terror of the other party. Although he regretted provoking them, he had no choice but to fight now. "Kill them for me." After the young man gave the order, the other party's firepower crazily shot at Su Yun and Lin Gu. The human shields in front of them were shot to death in an instant. Controlling the dead was easier than controlling the living. Su Yun and Lin Gu blocked the rain of bullets with 2 human shields. Their crafty shooting skills and accurate shooting made the other party fall to the ground one after another. In less than 2 minutes, there were only 2 people left. Other than the disgusting young man in the lead, there was a strategist guy beside him. After all the armed men were killed, the inept strategist raised his hands and surrendered. "Stop fighting. I surrender. I don't have any weapons. I've never fired a shot at you guys either. I surrender. I am willing to be captured. You are trash." The young man in the lead was furious. He shot the inept strategist's head. This guy probably never thought that he would be killed by his own people. This somewhat perverted and disgusting young man seemed to have gone crazy. He used up all the bullets on his body and around him, but he couldn't hurt Su Yun and Lin Gu. When he ran out of bullets, he was completely stunned. He threw away the gun in his hand and shook his head expressionlessly. That's right, he gave up. He knew he had no chance. No bullets. Su Yun and Lin Gu finally threw away the human shields. "Any last words?" The young man coldly stared at Su Yun and said, "I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. You guys better remember, I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. When I die, I am a malicious ghost. A malicious ghost that comes to take your life. When you die, you are a dead ghost." Lin Gu didn't want to hear him curse. He walked forward and picked up a bag of poison on the ground. Without saying anything, he stuffed the bag into the young man's mouth. The young man frantically spat out the poison bag, but he couldn't resist Lin Gu. He was tied to a tree behind Lin Gu. Chapter 3287. Why are you vomiting? Lin Gu picked up another bag of poison and waved it in front of him. What's this? Hardtack, the young man said stubbornly. He didn't even look at Lin Gu. Hardtack? That's great. You brought your own food, so why don't you eat it? Lin Gu said and opened a bag. Come, you must be hungry. I'll feed you. After saying that, Lin Gu shoved the poison into the young man's mouth. The young man struggled and spat it out with all his might. He knew how deadly this high-purity poison was. He would be dead if he ate it. Tell me what you want. I'll give it to you. I'll give you all the goods. Although the young man was subdued, he looked confident. Let me go. This is my only condition. Let me go and we'll pretend nothing happened today. I admit defeat. Lin Gu slapped him. Who are you pretending to be? You're already in this state and you're still putting on airs. Who do you think you are? Do you know who my father is? If you don't let me go, you can forget about coming to the Golden Triangle. My father is Jiwawan. My godfather is the famous Si Go. The young man glared with his bloodshot eyes. If you dare to touch me, you'll die. Stop, stop, stop. We have plenty of second-generation kids like you in China. My dad is the director of the bureau, the chief of the bureau, the mayor, and so on. Su Yun waved her hand. Your dad is a Chihuahua. What's the situation? A dog. Jiwawan. The young man shouted. He wouldn't allow his father's dignity to be trampled on. Chihuahua. It's Jiwawan. 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 Lin Gu rubbed his ears and nodded. I know. If he's a Chihuahua, then he's a Chihuahua. We didn't say he was a husky. Jiwawan. The young man's respect for his father came from the bottom of his heart. Okay. Jiwawan it is. Su Yun nodded. The young man's mind went blank as he roared, Chihuahua. I repeat, it's a Chihuahua. Su Yun and Lin Gu were both stunned. Fine, since she had changed her mind and said that she was a Chihuahua, Then so be it. Let's not talk about your dog father first. Let's talk about your godfather. He's already finished. Don't you know? The young man said with disdain, my godfather is the fourth dog. No one in the Golden Triangle dares to touch my godfather. Do you think I'll believe your nonsense? Brother, what if he doesn't believe you? Lin Gu asked. Should we give him a chance to know the truth? All right. Su Yun nodded. With so many drug dealers, it didn't matter whether he was there or not. Killing him wouldn't change anything, but he had to destroy these goods. In addition, since he was keeping him alive, he had to let him bring back some valuable information so that they would have some scruples about the Huaxia border. Since this guy recognized the fourth dog as his godfather, it meant that his father had some power in the Golden Triangle. Otherwise, the fourth dog wouldn't take him seriously. Do you remember the mud game we played when we were young? Su Yun suddenly asked Lin Gu. Lin Gu nodded. I remember. Then pour the powder in front of him and let him play. Su Yun smiled. Brother, there's no water. Lin Gu said as he moved. He poured all the drugs in front of the young man's crotch. The young man sat on the ground with his hands tied to the tree behind him. He couldn't resist at all. Su Yun said, when a boy wants to play with mud without water, he will always use his water gun to help. Lin Gu suddenly realized that this guy was tied up here. He would have to pee sooner or later. This is good. Lin Gu grinned. It must be an indescribable feeling to let the young man see his own goods being soaked by him. While talking, Lin Gu tied the young man's legs again to prevent him from finding a way to escape. Then, he took everyone's water bottles. Su Yun picked up a water bottle and said to the young man, no matter if your father is a husky or a chihuahua, no matter if your godfather is the fourth dog or the dead dog, no one will let you go today. We don't know if there will be a chance for someone to pass by here and find you. We don't have time to stay and play with you, so let's let you drink until you're full. We'll continue on our way so that you don't die of thirst. The young man was stunned. What do you mean? You're going to leave me here? What else? Do you think we'll let you go back to your godfather's funeral? Lin Gu rolled his eyes at the young man. Just stay here obediently. If your Chihuahua dad really loves you, he'll definitely send someone to look for you. As long as you drink until you're full of water, you shouldn't die in 3 to 5 days. The young man trembled with fear and panic. At this moment, he was truly afraid. If no one comes to save you, then I'm sorry, but you can only blame yourself for being unlucky. Su Yun shook his head. If the King Yenluo wants you dead at midnight, no one can keep you alive until dawn. So, you can only resign yourself to your fate. You're ruthless. Remember this. If I don't die this time, and if I get the chance to catch you, I'll make sure you suffer a fate 100 times worse than mine. Drink well. You'll be able to play with mud in a while. Lin Gu opened the young man's mouth and poured the water directly into his mouth. The young man choked and coughed. Although the young man was a little reluctant at first, he didn't dare to refuse in order to survive. He opened his mouth and allowed Lin Gu to pour as much water as he wanted. In the end, the young man burped until water came out of his mouth. Only then did Lin Gu stop. Lin Gu only stopped when all the water was gone. The young man was probably poisoned by the water. Remember, if you survive, tell your dad that your godfather, Sigu, was killed by us. Su Yun, it's that collapsed land that you all think is unlucky. Your godfather's mercenaries were all killed by us. If your family doesn't want to end up like Sigu, then stop. If you dare to ship goods to Huaxia and get caught by us, you'll end up like Sigu. Only then did the young man realize that Sigu's godfather's death might be true. You. Who the hell are you? The young man almost choked on the water that came out of his mouth. We're from Huaxia. Su Yun. Do you think I still need to tell you anything else? Drug traffickers, no matter how far away they are, must be killed. The young man's face was pale. Drinking too much water had already caused him to have some water poisoning. He closed his eyes in pain. Su Yun waved to Lin Gu and said, "Let's go." Don't waste time with him here. He won't be able to hold it in a while. That smell is too strong. Okay. The two of them left one after the other, leaving behind a guy tied to a tree. His face was lifeless, as if he could die at any time. He probably didn't even know if he could hold on until someone came to save him. Surviving and taking revenge was the only belief in this guy's heart now. Su Yun and Lin Gu quickly left this guy's field of vision. They were not far away from entering Hua Xia's territory. The two of them were in a good mood to be able to solve such a potential threat for the border anti-drug police halfway. These people deserved to die. Just on this short border, there were dozens or even hundreds of gunfights between Hua Xia's anti-drug police and Myanmar's armed drug traffickers every year. Almost every time, there would be casualties. Hua Xia's anti-drug team had been established for more than 30 years. They had solved nearly 300,000 cases and seized 200 to 300 tons of drugs. However, the armed drug traffickers they faced were getting more and more dangerous. Their weapons were getting better and better, and their methods were getting more and more sophisticated. Gunfights, undercover, fear, lifelong disability. These were what these people had to face every day. Su Yun and Lin Gu were able to solve such an armed criminal force halfway, unintentionally sharing the danger and pressure for them. This was something that made Su Yun and Lin Gu feel relaxed and happy. At least Su Yun would feel that this trip was not in vain, and he wouldn't feel that it was hard. Everything was worth it. In the Huaxia police world, the border anti-drug police might not be the most dangerous, but it could almost be said to be the most difficult. There was endless work every moment of every day. Because the drug traffickers in the Golden Triangle didn't stop every day, they had no chance to rest. Chapter 3288. Su Yun remembered very clearly that Wan Guangxiao had mentioned to them that Hua Xia's first anti-drug team was in 1982. Today, this team had arrested 300,000 to 400,000 drug dealers and made countless achievements. This anti-drug team was active in this area. This was the reason why Su Yun went to this place. This was the most dangerous place, so this team was here. This was because Wan Guangxiao had a very good relationship with the captain of this team. The two of them were very close friends. It was not easy to find friends who admired each other in this society. The two of them were doing dangerous and difficult things for their country, so they admired each other. Wan Guangxiao had arranged for the Dragon Brigade to come here more than once to experience the dangers and help the anti-drug police do the most dangerous things. They worked hard in the border cities, in the villages, and on the fog-shrouded border, which was where Su Yun and the rest were now. When Su Yun first walked into their lives, he found that every month, there would be people injured because of dangerous work. Some of them were seriously injured. Some were shot in the abdomen, and their limbs were cut open by exploding grenades. Death often appeared around them. Although the anti-drug police's professional training and safety protection were constantly being strengthened, and Wan Guangxiao would also arrange for elite soldiers to come here to train them, the death and injury rate of the anti-drug police was still several times higher than that of other police forces. The reason was very simple. Danger, endless danger. The first anti-drug police officer Su Yun met here was called Huazi. He had a shocking scar on his face. Su Yun asked him how he got it. He joked that he tattooed a centipede on his face to make himself look more ferocious. If he looked more ferocious, it would be more convenient for him to go undercover when the organization needed him. It would be easier to win the drug dealer's trust. In fact, this scar was left behind when he was blown up by a grenade. A drug dealer was surrounded by him and a few of his colleagues. In desperation, the drug dealer pulled the grenade. He and several of his colleagues were knocked over by the shock wave from the explosion. With this explosion, 2 of Huazi's brothers died. He was lucky enough to survive, but his body was pierced by dozens of shrapnel in many places. The scars that had not healed for many years were because there were still small shrapnel in his flesh that could not be removed. But Huazi was never troubled by the pain of these shrapnel. He was happy every day. He said that these scars were his honor. Indeed, these were all his honors. Huazi was still a little hard of hearing. Every time Su Yun talked to him, it would take a lot of effort. Sometimes, Huazi had to be very loud in order to hear because the explosion of the grenades had damaged his auditory nerves. Many of Huazi's family and friends felt that it was not worth it for Huazi to do such an unlucky job. However, Huazi did not agree. He always said that he was lucky because 2 of his brothers had died in front of him. If he did not continue in this industry, he would be letting down his brothers who had died in front of him. When Su Yun first came to this anti-drug team, Huazi had already retired from the front line. It was not that he did not want to do dangerous work, but that the organization said that he was not suitable for it. Because his hearing was not good, it was harder for him to detect the sounds made by the drug dealers compared to others. Although Huazi felt regretful, he obeyed the organization's arrangement. This was because he did not want to be a burden to the organization. He did not want to bring danger to the brothers around him. In the 10 years that Huazi had been in the front line, he had been awarded the 2nd-class merit once and the 3rd-class merit 7 times. His favorite thing was to take out these merit medals and look at them over and over again. He told Su Yun that these merit medals were the most precious thing in his life. They were more precious than his life. Huazi still did not have a wife and children. It was not that he could not find one, but that he did not want to find one. He said that he was always ready to return to the front line at any time. That way, his life would be in danger at any time. He did not want to implicate a woman. He did not dare to have a child because he did not want to sacrifice himself one day and leave his child without a father. His family said that he was unfilial, but Huazi said that since ancient times, loyalty and filial piety could not be achieved at the same time. Since he had chosen to be loyal to the country, he might not be able to be filial like others. Although Huazi was very disappointed when he said this, he quickly recovered. He said that he still had 2 brothers and that they would be filial to him. Huazi did not have any savings. He sent all his money to his family. Although he knew that this salary could not make up for his unfilial behavior, if he did not do this, he would feel even worse. Su Yun knew Huazi from the equipment warehouse. After Huazi left the front line, he began to take care of the protective equipment used by the police, such as bulletproof vests and helmets. Huazi was very dedicated to this work. He said that if the defensive equipment had been more advanced, fewer brothers would have died. In recent years, in order to fight against the rising trend of armed drug trafficking, the police increased the protection of the anti-drug officers. Every time there was a checkpoint, bulletproof protective equipment was indispensable. Huazi's anti-drug team was also equipped with Kevlar bulletproof vests that could block submachine gun bullets. Huazi said that it was the best thing in the world. However, although the police station continued to increase the protection of the officers, some anti-drug officers were still on the edge of danger. Huazi said that in most cases, they could not wear bulletproof vests. The reason was simple. When they were secretly working, wearing bulletproof vests was equivalent to telling the drug dealers that the police were here. In addition, they often had to climb up and down in the tropical rainforest. They were not soldiers from the special forces and did not have good physical fitness. Although they were very strong and had been persisting in training, there were not many who could carry bulletproof vests that weighed dozens of kilograms and walk far in the harsh road conditions. In the rainforest, chasing drug dealers was an extremely dangerous job. Any mistake could lead to injury or even death. Huazi had once told Su Yun that once they walked into the rainforest, it was very dangerous. Not only did they have to be wary of drug dealers with guns, they also had to endure the overwhelming number of mosquitoes, leeches, poisonous snakes, and the barbed vines in the forest and the cave under the rotten leaves. What Huazi had told Su Yun in the past was the reason why Su Yun was able to handle the situation here with ease. They were now in a forest across the border. Huazi had told Su Yun about all the dangers here. Every time Su Yun encountered the dangers that Huazi had warned him about, he would think of Huazi in his heart. Su Yun did not know if he would have the chance to see him this time. If he had the chance to see him, Su Yun would be very happy. At this time, Su Yun saw a hidden cave and pulled Lin Gu away. If it was late at night, then he really did not know what would happen in the next second. Huazi had told Su Yun his story. Huazi had accidentally fallen into a cave at night. The cave was very dark and full of unknown poisonous insects. Huazi said that he was very lucky because most people who fell into the cave would either fall to their deaths or be bitten to death by poisonous insects. Huazi did not die, so he was very lucky. He was so lucky that every time he chatted with Su Yun, he would mention his luck. Su Yun liked Huazi's optimism. Huazi always said that a person should be happy. He would make himself happy every day because only then would he not regret it after death. The drug dealers had taken the lives of anti-drug police like Huazi along the long border and the flickering lights in the city. Su Yun did not dare to count because he could not count clearly. Some people were killed by guns, some people fell off the cliff with the drug dealers, and some people were killed by grenades. At that time, Su Yun said that he felt that it was necessary to find the media to interview them so that people would remember them as heroes. But Huazi said that it was absolutely impossible. They had to hide themselves from the public eye. They were afraid that the drug dealers would see their faces, which would make their work more difficult. Huazi said very seriously that they gathered together to do this work not to leave a name or to be a hero, but because of their hatred for drugs and their sense of mission to the country. At that time, Su Yun's admiration for them rose from the bottom of his heart. He really admired these ordinary soldiers in the eyes of the special forces. Because of them, drugs did not spread on such a large scale in their country. This was the bottom line that they protected with their blood and lives. Chapter 3289. Every time he thought of this, Su Yun felt an indescribable stabbing pain in his heart. This stabbing pain rose from the heart, and this stabbing pain could not be appeased. When they crossed the border and entered Huaxia's land, Su Yun was stunned for a long time because he saw many shocking bullet holes in the tree trunks. Su Yun knew very well what this meant. This meant that the anti-narcotics personnel and the armed drug dealers had exchanged fire, and the exchange of fire meant casualties. It's finally over. Lin Gu stretched. Brother, what are you thinking about? Nothing. Su Yun shook his head. I just suddenly feel a little helpless. Just because of the geographical topography, we have to pay the price of so much blood just to border this hotbed of poppies. If there were no poppies, many people wouldn't have been sacrificed. Lin Gu nodded. Yes, why do you think our Huaxia is so unlucky? We have such an unreliable neighbor. There's no choice, Su Yun said. The U.S. Empire and Myanmar are also neighbors, and there's no lack of trouble in this regard. In this world, countries like Myanmar, and Myanmar, which were known for their drug trafficking, were all involved in it. Huaxia and the United States had also become the countries with the most serious drug trafficking problems. The main reason was that they were close to Myanmar and Myanmar. Su Yun and Lin Gu also relaxed after entering Huaxia's territory. They walked forward unhurriedly. At this moment, subtle sounds in the distance drilled into Su Yun's ears. Lin Gu was just about to take out his gun and prepare to fight, but he was stopped by Su Yun. This was Huaxia, and they must have encountered people from the anti-narcotics team. If it was armed drug dealers, it was impossible for them to take the initiative to start a fight, because they also knew very well that once they made a move in Huaxia, the possibility of getting out alive was slim. The warriors of Huaxia had a saying, "Those who offend our Huaxia will be punished no matter how far away they are." These words had a great deterrent effect on these criminals. After Su Yun stopped Lin Gu, he raised his hands and shouted into the distance, "We are from Huaxia. We are not drug dealers. I'm also a citizen of the country. The captain of the narcotics squad at the border knows my code name. My name is Yen Long. I wonder if any of you know me?" Su Yun shouted into the distance and motioned for Lin Gu to raise his hand. Because they were all armed, in order to avoid unnecessary conflict, Su Yun had to take the initiative to make things clear. Hearing Su Yun's voice, the 7 or 8 people lying in ambush in the dense forest not far away were all from the anti-narcotics team. When they heard Su Yun's words, everyone looked at each other. Because no one knew who Yen Long was, and they would not believe that a guy who came out of the border of Myanmar with armed weapons said that the captain of the anti-narcotics team knew who he was. "We will put down all our weapons now. I hope you believe us," Su Yun said as he motioned for Lin Gu and him to carefully put down their weapons. The 7 or 8 people lying in ambush had been aiming their guns at the 2 of them. As long as the 2 of them made any strange movements, they would not hesitate to shoot. Inside this box is not a weapon. It is our national treasure. Su Yun continued, we are here because we are on a special mission. If you don't trust us, don't shoot at this wooden box. The things inside must not be damaged. As he said that, Su Yun and Lin Gu had already put down the wooden box. I know that you have some worries and concerns. Anyone who encounters this will have doubts, but please believe me. The people lying in ambush on the opposite side finally reacted. 3 of them stood up and walked over while aiming. The others were still lying in ambush. They would not expose themselves until they were sure of the other party's identity. 3 people holding guns came from the left, the right, and the middle. Without saying a word, they surrounded Su Yun and Lin Gu. Lin Gu smiled bitterly. Brothers, we already said that we are on the same side. You don't have to do this. If something goes wrong, we will be innocent. Don't talk so much nonsense. The fiercest of the 3 shouted directly. At this time, the 3 people came in front of them and kicked all the weapons that Su Yun and Lin Gu had removed to the back. The 3 of them were dressed in camouflage and their faces were painted black. One of them was wearing glasses and looked slightly gentlemanly. He looked down at Su Yun and Lin Ji's weapons and whispered to his 2 comrades, very advanced equipment. There are only a few people in the Golden Triangle who have such advanced equipment. Si Go, Jiwawan, etc. They are all big drug lords. Hearing this, the other 2 people were not calm. They held their guns tighter in their hands. Listen to me, we are definitely not Si Go's men, Su Yun said. This is all a coincidence. We don't have any weapons. We seized them. Si Go and his mercenary group of more than 100 people were destroyed by us. There will be no Si Go in the Golden Triangle in the future. Lin Gu said, and that Chihuahua, his son brought more than 10 people to make a deal. We destroyed them halfway. Lin Gu said excitedly, but the other party did not believe him at all. Are you done talking? If you are, then take a break. Do you think we will believe your nonsense? The other 3 people were unmoved. The drug dealers who appeared here all had one thing in common, and that was that they always talked about lies. There was no truth in their words at all. Based on this, they would not easily believe Su Yun and Lin Gu. Su Yun could understand this. After all, Su Yun had been here before and knew the situation here. However, Lin Gu did not understand. He certainly could not accept such an unreasonable attitude in a short time. What do you mean? My brother and I didn't make it clear enough, right? Lin Gu said, I find that you people are still so ungrateful. We killed Si Go in the Golden Triangle, and we also killed a group of drug dealers for you. If it weren't for us, it would be those bastards who came here now. Those bastards have guns. You can't avoid a fierce battle. Do you think you can deal with an armed team of more than 10 people? If things go wrong, you might even lose your lives. You say it yourself. Didn't we save your lives in a disguised way? You still treat us like this. Can we still talk? Lin Gu was angry. The 3 people from the anti-drug team were stunned. It was the first time they met someone with a temper like Lin Gu in the Golden Triangle. This is their job requirement. Don't talk so much. Su Yun said to Lin Gu, cooperate with the work. Okay. Cooperate. Lin Gu sighed helplessly. He was upset and muttered, I'm only doing this for my brother's sake. If it weren't for my brother, I would have fallen out with you guys a long time ago. You try to flip me over. The other party's gun was directly on Lin Ji's head. Lin Gu was anxious at the time. If it weren't for Su Yun, he would have really made a move. The other party was too much. They were all on the same side. Did they have to bully others like this? If they thought about it from another perspective, in the eyes of the anti-drug team, any suspicious person could be a drug dealer who had killed their brothers. So, their emotions could not be controlled at all. This was not directed at Lin Gu, but at everything. If I really made a move, with just the three of you? It's not enough for me to play with. Lin Gu spat. This kid didn't think so much. If he felt aggrieved in his heart, it was all written on his face. The other party directly hit Lin Ge's chest with the butt of the gun. Behave. Lin Gu clenched his fist and turned to look at Su Yun. Brother, I'll remember this grandson. Hurry up and prove their identity. Otherwise, I'm afraid that I won't be able to resist killing him. What nonsense are you talking about? Su Yun pulled Lin Gu behind him. The three people's guns were still aimed at the two of them. How about this? You guys call your captain and tell him that I'm Yen Long, Su Yun. We know each other. It's true. I won't lie to you. You can take a photo of me and send it to him. He will definitely let you take me back. He won't suspect me. The three people were stunned. There was no need to take a photo, but one of them still took out a satellite phone and dialed the number of the captain's office. A relaxed smile appeared on Su Yun's face. Finally, he had found his family. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.